Chapter 136. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers touched the corner of the curtain. Just as she stepped out of the carriage, the 9 tails of the 9-tailed fox had already curled up her body and sent her steadily to the ground. This action made the Yi family's mood extremely complicated. The Overlord's sacred beast actually respected Yiqing Luo so much? Could it be, the Overlord and Yiqing Luo came to 3 springs together? The group of people kneeling on the ground, their legs were already numb, but still did not dare to stand up. Your Highness is really well educated, making noise and provocation in public. Are you afraid that the world doesn't know that your Lung family is so awesome that you want to compete with the Overlord for the world? Yiqing Luo spread out her feather fan, covering half of her face, and gave a low laugh. Her tone was light, as if she was talking about the weather. But the meaning of that sentence made Lung Fenghua's face change. Compete with the Overlord for the world? How could he have this ability? Moreover, Yiqing Luo clearly wanted to involve the whole royal family. 7th Miss Yi, you can't talk nonsense. I have great respect for all the capable people in the world. Lung Fenghua was so angry that the corner of his mouth twitched, but on the surface, he still had to hang a gentle smile. He took a few deep breaths and looked at Yiqing Luo. But 7th Miss Yi, as my fiancée, you are entangled with the Overlord. Is this the upbringing of 7th Miss Yi? Do I have upbringing? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, glancing at the group of people who were kneeling on the ground. Her line of sight was fixed on old grandmadam. I lost my mother when I was 5 years old. What upbringing can I have? Don't talk nonsense with this young lord. Immediately she sneered. Moreover, Lung Fenghua, do you have the right to question me about my relationship with Diamo Xian? Her 5 fingers moved, closed the feather fan, and the smile on the corner of her mouth instantly turned cold. Just based on the fact that you and Yiqing Qian had an affair behind this young matriarch's back, you had already let this young matriarch divorce you a month ago. Lung Fenghua's face darkened. 7th sister, don't talk nonsense. Yiqing Qian glanced at the carriage in a fluster, fearing that Diamo Xian would misunderstand, and hurriedly explained, eldest sister and his highness are innocent. You? Innocent? Do you really think we're blind? Just now, Lung Fenghua very sincerely invited you to the backyard, to test whether your profound level has improved or not. Yiqing Luo sneered and deliberately emphasized on the word test. He raised his voice at the end, and his tone was filled with ridicule. The meaning of his words changed. Yiqing Qian bit her pink lips tightly, unable to refute. Lung Fenghua was also secretly annoyed. How could he let his anger rise to his head and say something he shouldn't have said in the heat of the moment? The atmosphere instantly became strange. At this moment, old grandmadam who was kneeling in front raised her head slightly, and a pair of malicious eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo. However, he glanced at the carriage out of the corner of his eye. 7th brother, bring Lord Dizun out. Yiqing Luo played with her feather fan as she tilted her head and blinked innocently. Diamo Xian isn't here. Not here? Not only did the Yi clan's people's faces turn green and red, even Lung Fenghua's expression changed. The surrounding people shook their heads and sighed lightly. They didn't expect the Overlord to be not here. They thought they could see the man in the rumors. But, even if they could see the Overlord's only sacred beast, it was still a blessing. As a result, the people stared at the white arrogant 9-tailed fox in a daze. Yiqing Luo, are you playing with us? Yiqing Qian stared at the carriage shyly and immediately changed her expression. She turned hostile faster than flipping a book. Playing? How did I play with you? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows disapprovingly. Did I say that Diamo Xian is here? Yiqing Qian's words were deflated and she bit her lower lip unwillingly. Yes. Yiqing Luo didn't say it, but... Chapter 137. Old 7, what's going on? Old grandmadam's face was gloomy as she was helped up by Yi Tianquan. After all, she was old. After kneeling for about the time it took to burn a stick of incense, her legs were already a little numb. At this time, her whole weight was supported by Yi Tianquan's body. Thinking that she had actually knelt for so long in front of so many people, old grandmadam's face became increasingly gloomy. I want to ask you what's going on. Yiqing Luo's gaze swept around, pretending to be puzzled. Why are old grandmadam and father kneeling at the door? Suddenly, she nodded in realization and scratched her head embarrassedly. Did old grandmadam and father specially come to welcome me to celebrate my admission into the Heavenly Academy? Old grandmadam originally stood firm. Hearing Yiqing Luo's words, she was so angry that her body suddenly trembled, her slender eyes narrowed into a slit. Welcome Yiqing Luo? Could Yiqing Luo afford such a grand welcome? Of course I can. Yiqing Luo seemed to see through old grandmadame's thoughts and smiled sweetly. Her charming eyes shone with an innocent luster, her eyebrows curved. Just now old grandmadame has knelt for such a long time, there was no sound of thunder, why can't I accept it? You. Old Seven, in any case you are the young matriarch of Three Springs sect, mind your words. Old grandmadame's eyes flashed viciously, her eyes were deep and treacherous. This little slut was really different from the past. How could the previous Yiqing Luo have such a pair of, such soul-stirring eyes? What was the reason that caused the weak and useless old Seven to have such a big change for 15 years? If old grandmadame really thinks that I am the young matriarch, when eldest sister provoked me, old grandmadame should have spoken up to defend her. Yiqing Luo sneered, I don't have a mother to discipline me, could it be that? Eldest sister also doesn't know how to be taught? Her voice fell abruptly and she continued the conversation. That's true, if eldest sister had a good family education as a daughter of a wealthy family, she wouldn't have gone behind her sister's back and fooled around with her future brother-in-law. The last sentence, although it was a soft murmur. But the surrounding people who couldn't hear it clearly. Who could not hear it. Seeing the commoners pointing and gossiping, Yiqing Qian bit her lower lip in embarrassment and indignation. How could she maintain her usual gentleness on her face? Yiqing Qian was thin-skinned and only felt that the surrounding gazes made her face burn up. Her small hands gripped the wide sleeves of her robe tightly as she suppressed the surging anger in her chest. She tried her best to make her voice sound more gentle. Seventh sister, if you try your best to misunderstand me and slander me, I can only die to prove my innocence. With that, she lifted her sleeves and wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes. Then he crashed into the wall of the Three Springs sect residence. Qian. The old ancestor and Yi Tianquang cried out in alarm. Just as Yiqing Qian's head was about to hit the wall, a burst of profound qi shot towards her. That strong air wave caused Yiqing Qian's body to flip over. Yiqing Qian fell heavily onto the ground. The exquisite makeup on her face had been covered by dust, and her carefully coiffed hair was scattered. Qian, I'm sorry, I wanted to save you but I didn't control my strength in a hurry. Lung Fenghua, who was standing in the distance, immediately retracted his hand and took a few steps to Yiqing Qian's side and held her in his arms. Seeing that Yiqing Qian was seeking death, Lung Fenghua's reflex action was to stop her with profound qi. Chapter 138. Die to prove your sincerity? Yiqing Luo sneered, her pink lips hooked up. Why do I feel that eldest sister is so ashamed that she wants to commit suicide to escape punishment because I exposed you in front of everyone? Yiqing Qian, who was about to faint, was so angry that she coughed a few times. A mouthful of blood gushed up her throat. Wah, she spat it out. Lung Fenghua was hugging her and this spurt all sprayed onto his face. Lung Fenghua only felt that his face was warm, and a bloody smell filled his nose. His whole face was covered with sticky liquid. Ha! In this way not only are your skin intertwined but your blood is also mixed. Yiqing Luo burst out laughing. A scumbag and a white lotus, a perfect match. Even God thought so and even gave them a color for this perfect match. Yiqing Qian's breath was stuck in her throat, and her mouth was full of the taste of blood. After hearing Yiqing Luo's words she couldn't bear it anymore, her delicate body twitched violently, her eyes rolled, and she completely fainted. Lung Fenghua's face was sprayed with blood, and his expression couldn't be seen clearly. However, from the aura released from his body, it was enough to show the anger in his heart at this time. If it weren't for so many people watching, if it weren't for the presence of the Yi family, Lung Fenghua really wanted to throw the woman in his arms out. Lung Fenghua took a deep breath, trying to calm his mood. But when he breathed, he inhaled a nose full of blood. He raised his sleeve impatiently and wiped his face with all his might. Your Royal Highness, thank you for saving Qian's life. Come, carry eldest miss away. How could Yi Tianquang not feel Lung Fenghua's anger at this time? He hurriedly called a few rough maids to carry Yiqing Qian back to the room. Let Madame Yuqi take care of her. If Qian's body recovers, she will make up for her mistake. Old Grandmadame added. Old Grandmadame really liked Yiqing Qian from the bottom of her heart. After all, such a well-behaved and talented junior like Yiqing Qian, how could she not like her? Letting the maids take care of her was not as good as the care of her biological mother. Yiqing Luo could tell from old Grandmadame's words that she pitied Yiqing Qian. The corners of her lips twitched in a self-deprecating manner. She narrowed her enchanting eyes, which were suffused with a cold light, reflecting a profound meaning. Although she had already expected the old ancestor's attitude towards her. But in Yiqing Luo's heart, there were still some doubts. After all, she was the legitimate daughter of the Yi family and the future young sect master. It was one thing for Yi Tianquang to hate her so much. Why, in her memory, this elder ancestor, who used to determine the status of the younger generation in the Yi clan, also hated her so much. There wasn't the slightest bit of excitement and agitation from her being able to cultivate profound qi and getting to know Dmo Xian. Old Grand Madame retracted her gaze as she watched Yi Qing Qian being carried away by the old maid. Old 7, that's enough. How can you make such a ruckus in public? That slender cold eyes which resembled a venomous snake stared coldly at Yi Qing Luo. In the past there was no one to discipline you. Now that I have come out of seclusion, you will be personally disciplined by me in the future. As soon as old Grand Madame's words fell, Yi Tianquang's face revealed a look of ecstasy. In his heart, he secretly thought, if old Grand Madame was personally disciplining her, would he be afraid that this cheap girl would not be disciplined? But these words made Yi Qing Luo's expression that seemed like a smile yet not a smile turned into a belly laugh. She laughed like a flower branch trembling. Her flirtatious red dress floated along with the trembling of her body, like a blooming gorgeous rose. I'm afraid old Grand Madame has forgotten that in a few days, I will be reporting to the Heavenly Academy. Discipline her? She hadn't been disciplined for the past 15 years. Chapter 139. Yi Qing Luo. You're usually lawless, but how dare you be so rude in front of old Grand Madame? Yi Tianquang was furious when he saw that old Grand Madame couldn't suppress Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo snorted coldly. Rude? She didn't put the Yi family in her eyes at all, okay? Yi Qing Luo was too lazy to pay attention to Yi Tianquang and turned to look at the nine-tailed fox behind her. You go back and say thank you for me. The white fox, who was originally arrogant and elegant, moved its head after hearing her voice. The sharp fox mouth rubbed against Yi Qing Luo's face. Yi Qing Luo only felt a wet and hot touch, sweeping across her skin. It actually licked her? After licking her, the nine-tailed fox leaped into the air and disappeared into the horizon with the gorgeous carriage. It was as dazzling as when it came, causing the people in the city to stop and look up at the sky. Ow meow meow. It was hard to tell if it was the cry of a cat or the low roar of some wild beast that rang in his ears. Immediately she saw a ball of fluffy object the size of a palm, climbing up Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. The fluffy tail fiercely swept across Yi Qing Luo's cheek. Chi. Yi Qing Luo was a little tickled and reached out to pull it. But the little guy jumped from one end of the shoulder to the other. It moved its little head and licked Yi Qing Luo's other cheek. It turned out that the little guy was jealous. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help laughing and rubbed Chi-Chi's little head. Well, that's not my sacred beast, there's nothing to worry about. Ow meow meow. Chi-Chi snorted, staring fiercely in the direction of the nine-tailed fox's departure. Damn fox, coquettish and domineering, was it trying to steal its master? Yi Qing Luo hugged Chi-Chi, talking and laughing, leaving behind a large group of people watching the fun, and walked into the Three Springs Manor. Old Grand Madame's face was livid. Yi Tianquang's facial features were hideous. He was furious, but in front of the people they could only calm down and return to the manor. Your Highness, are you going to the Yi family to clean up, or? The attendant stared at the blood on Lung Fenghua's face and asked tremblingly. At this moment, Lung Fenghua didn't have half of the crown prince's nobility. After the blood coagulated, his entire face seemed to have been glued. Lung Fenghua clenched his teeth and slapped his follower a few times. What Yi clan? Why bother going to the Yi clan? Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Yi Qing Luo returned to the abandoned courtyard and placed Chi-Chi on the table without sitting down. The gate of the abandoned courtyard was kicked open with a loud bang. Yi Tianquang looked at the withered branches on the ground and frowned. This was really an abandoned courtyard, so abandoned that no one could live in it. Yi Qing Luo had actually stayed in such a place for 15 years? The elder master followed closely, and when he saw the environment, his face darkened. Before Madame Yi moved in, this courtyard was not the best courtyard in the Three Springs sect, but it was definitely not bad. Who would have thought that, after more than a decade of absence, it would actually become like this? Father and old ancestor are really persistent. Didn't you see the sign hanging outside the courtyard? Yi Qing Luo lazily leaned against the wall, her arms crossed over her chest. Yi Tianquang followed Yi Qing Luo's line of sight, and sure enough, he saw a huge wooden sign outside the courtyard. On it was written in flamboyant calligraphy, "Livestock are not allowed inside." She pointed to the sign and looked at the two Yi family elders. The meaning was obvious. Chapter 140. Oh. Yi Qing Luo raised her eyebrows. So? Yi Tianquang's eyes burst with anger when he saw her stubborn look. He turned to look at old grandmadam. Old grandmadam, old Seventh's behavior has brought shame to the Yi family. I think it's time to consider changing the young matriarch position of Three Springs sect. After that, he glanced at Yi Qingluo from the corner of his eyes. In Yi Tianquang's view, the reason why Yi Qingluo could be so arrogant was because of her identity as the first wife's daughter and her identity as the young matriarch of Three Springs sect. If she lost these backing, would Yi Qingluo still be so arrogant? Heh! A light laugh overflowed from Yi Qingluo's pink lips. She shook her feather fan and met Yi Tianquang's gaze with contempt. Father doesn't know what's right and wrong, old grandmadam understands. She slowly walked towards old grandmadam, slightly squinting her charming eyes, flowing with a rippling luster. Eldest sister knows that Lung Fenghua is the sovereign's order to be my husband, but she seduced Lung Fenghua behind his back. This action, let's not talk about whether it's against the rules. If the sovereign hears about it, I'm afraid eldest sister will have to bear the crime of deceiving the sovereign. The sovereign first set the engagement, but in order to achieve her own goal, Yi Qingqian seduced Lung Fenghua and persuaded him to marry her instead. Yi Qingqian's action was in defiance of the sovereign's order. Lung Fenghua betrayed me first, it's natural for me to divorce him. The smile on Yi Qingluo's lips gradually deepened. Furthermore, fourth sister secretly colluded with Yuchi fourth young master to dig out my jade heart in an attempt to destroy my innocence. During the ability assessment, she even borrowed the Dark Force's items to seriously injure Xiaoyu. As she approached, a majestic and powerful aura spread out from her body. Yi Tianquang and old grandmadam couldn't help but feel aghast. I'm just giving you a taste of your own medicine, what's wrong with that? You're allowed to plot against us, but I'm not allowed to fight back? Is this the Yi family's principle? Yi Qingluo scoffed coldly as her lips curled up in ridicule. Don't even think of using the position of young sect master to threaten me. You want me to be the young sect master, but I might not be willing to do it. For the past 15 years, had she ever enjoyed even the slightest bit of benefit from her position as the young sect master? No. What she had experienced was the jealousy and humiliation of her siblings. There was no difference whether he had the position of young sect master or not. You vile spawn, if I don't. Yi Tianquang was so angry that his whole body was twitching. He clenched his fist and was about to rush forward. Old grandmadam's withered like firewood hand grabbed Yi Tianquang's wrist. Her ice-cold eyes coldly swept past Yi Qingluo. Being stared at by those eyes was like being stared at by a poisonous snake. Yi Qingluo's slender fingers stroked her lower jaw, as her half-squinted eyes seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. After a long while, the elder ancestor withdrew his gaze and turned to leave the abandoned courtyard. Yi Tianquang followed closely behind. Vaguely, she could still hear Yi Tianquang's low roar of rage, as if he wasn't satisfied with why the elder ancestor didn't let him make a move. Originally, she thought that after Yi Tianquang had suffered here, he would definitely revoke her position as the young sect master. But Yi Qingluo waited for 2 days and instead waited until the elder ancestor sent someone to invite her out of the abandoned courtyard and gave her the best location in Three Springs sect. After living in the new courtyard, the elder ancestor also sent more people to Yi Qingluo. There were at least 20 people in front and behind the courtyard. Chapter 141. Old grandmadam was indeed the old grandmadam. Her way of thinking was indeed more mature than Yi Tianquang. Extreme measures would only make the gap between Yi Qingluo and the Yi family widen. On the contrary, restoring Yi Qingluo's rights as the daughter of the first wife and the young matriarch was the most important way to stabilize Yi Qingluo. These 2 days the attendants and maids came in and out. Old grandmadam and Yi Tianquang didn't take a step inside. After a few days, Yi Fengyu was able to get out of bed and was sent back by the Mu brothers. Knowing that Yi Qingluo wasn't wronged by old grandmadam, but moved to the best courtyard in the inner part of the residence, his heart was finally at ease. It seemed that old grandmadam indeed used profound grade and ability to determine the status of the younger generation. These days, Yi Qingluo had been cultivating profound qi with old man Tsang in the Azure Dew bracelet, as well as the first layer of purgatory. Her profound grade had been stuck at the yellow profound 9th grade ever since the competition with Yi Qingling. This advancement barrier, Yi Qingluo had tried numerous ways but ultimately she was unable to break through. Yi Qingluo wanted to try challenging the second layer of purgatory, perhaps it could stimulate her to advance. However, old man Tsang didn't agree with her approach and forcefully stopped her. The 12 layers of purgatory, although it is a void and different from this world, but if you are injured in there, you are really injured. If you die in there you are really dead. Old man Song said seriously, before you have enough strength to contend with the second layer of purgatory, I will absolutely not let you step into the second layer. After Yi Fengyu returned to Three Springs sect, he tidied up his courtyard and directly moved to the same courtyard as Yiqing Luo. The new courtyard was extremely spacious, divided into two areas. Yi Fengyu was in the front courtyard and Yiqing Luo was in the back courtyard. There was a distance between the siblings so they wouldn't be the subject of gossip. In order to strengthen Yi Fengyu's body, Yiqing Luo asked the Cauldron Dragon to refine a few medicinal pills for him. Time flew by and half a month had passed. All the freshman examinations in the Heavenly Academy had ended and it was the day of school. On the night before school started, the attendants helped the siblings pack their luggage. Yi Fengyu's handsome face revealed a few complicated emotions. After the meal, he left the courtyard alone. Miss is young master. Is he too nervous about going to the Heavenly Academy? Ziling could tell that something was wrong with her brother and asked in a low voice. Yiqing Luo wiped her mouth and squinted her eyes. This fellow? I'm afraid it's because of me. Sure enough, Yi Fengyu returned to the courtyard with a gloomy face half an hour later. On seeing Yiqing Luo still sitting in the main hall, apparently waiting for him, Yi Fengyu lowered his head and sat down beside Yiqing Luo. From time to time, he would glance at Yiqing Luo, looking as though he wanted to say something but was hesitant. Yiqing Luo wasn't anxious at all as she leaned lazily against the back of the chair, patiently waiting for him to speak. After a while, Yi Fengyu's thin lips moved and suddenly took out a brocade bag from his bosom. Sister, this is 200 gold coins, the registration fee to enter the Heavenly Academy. You take it. What about you? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and glanced at the brocade bag in his hand. A trace of awkwardness flitted across Yi Fengyu's face. Of course I do. This is big sister. Little you? Yiqing Luo's cold voice indifferently interrupted his words. You know what big sister hates the most is deception. Yi Fengyu bit his thin lips, the words just now were stuck in his throat and couldn't come out. Chapter 142. Yiqing Luo heard this, her pink lips slightly hooked up and looked up with a faint smile. Don't give, I don't need it. But, sister, the registration fee for the Heavenly Academy is 200 gold coins. Yi Fengyu's face was full of guilt. For Yi Fengyu, 200 gold coins was a shocking amount of wealth. For the past 15 years, although his life was better than Yiqing Luo, but his monthly salary was at most 10 silver coins. These years, Yi Fengyu had hoarded a lot of money, but some time ago Yiqing Luo spent it all on medicinal herbs. Now he was penniless. Only the 200 gold coins registration fee that old grandmadam gave him. But, what about his sister's registration fee? Seeing that he had to go to the academy tomorrow, old grandmadam had no intention to take out her registration fee. Just now he specially went to his father's courtyard to ask, but was stopped by his father. Yi Fengyu felt that the money bag in his hand was exceptionally heavy. Sister, it's all right for me to go to the academy, I can also learn from the ordinary schools, but sister, Heavenly Academy is your chance, you are the most suitable to go there. Yi Fengyu was clear about his own weight, his aptitude was absolutely not comparable to Yiqing Luo. It was better to give this opportunity to his sister, he could feel at ease. You are a man, why are you so long-winded? Yiqing Luo interrupted him impatiently, squinting at him with her charming eyes. Yi Tianquang's purpose is very simple, he just wants me to take the initiative to beg him. These days she changed the courtyard and added more maids to take care of her. But there was no reaction on the registration fee. Obviously, old grandmadam and Yi Tianquang wanted to take this opportunity to make her take the initiative to look for them. Once she took the initiative, she would lose her sovereignty. They would also take the opportunity to put forward some conditions to suppress her. This was a good plan. But, Yiqing Luo chuckled softly as her alluring eyes squinted slightly. You're only thinking about how to subdue me, but you've forgotten that I'm representing Three Springs sect now. The young matriarch of the Three Springs sect, after being admitted to the Heavenly Academy, could not even pay the registration fee of 200 gold coins. Were they mocking her young master for being useless? Or were they mocking the Three Springs sect for being so poor that they couldn't even take out 200 gold coins? Yi Fengyu's jaw dropped in realization. Then tomorrow? Who told you that I have no money? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows and teased. Yi Fengyu's eyes widened even more. Sister has it? 200 gold coins? No matter how he thought about it, he couldn't believe it. He had a monthly salary, and even though he lived frugally, he had only managed to save 20 gold coins over the years. Yiqing Luo, These few years Yi Tianquang had long forgotten about her in the abandoned courtyard, and Madame Yuqi had intentionally neglected and humiliated her. Not even a single copper coin was given to Yi Qingluo. These years, although Yi Fengyu looked down on Yi Qingluo, she was after all his biological sister. Every time he received his monthly salary, he would secretly buy some food and give it to Ziling to take care of Yi Qingluo. Because of this, towards Yi Qingluo's situation, he was extremely familiar with it. How could Yi Qingluo possibly have 200 gold coins? What is sister's secondary occupation? Yi Qingluo's pink lips slightly raised, leisurely chuckling, lingering in the air above the hall. Yi Fengyu replied in a daze. Medicine, medicine master, medicine master? Chapter 143. When Yi Fengyu thought of his sister's refined pills, he was deeply impressed by her character. He had never seen an alchemist like Yi Qingluo who had a 100% success rate. Moreover, the pills she refined were extremely special. They were obviously using the same formula and refining the same type of medicinal pills, but it was obvious that the medicinal pills which Yi Qingluo had refined were much more effective than ordinary medicinal pills. Alchemist was originally a money-making profession, and for an alchemist like Yi Qingluo, the gold coins flew all over the sky. Yi Fengyu's face immediately turned bitter as he threw himself to Yi Qingluo's side and started massaging her shoulders and legs. Elder sister, since you are so rich, look at my 20 gold coins. It was a secret stash of money that he had saved up for several years. Just the thought of contributing all of it was enough to make one's heart ache. Forget it. Yi Qingluo pulled the corner of her lips and said, in order to prevent you from spending money recklessly, I will keep your money for you. The next day Yi Qingluo was woken up by Ziling early in the morning. Ziling looked around and whispered in Yi Qingluo's ear, Miss, those people from the Yi family are already waiting for you. Yi Qingluo raised her eyebrows, a pair of lazy eyes revealed a bit of slyness. Then let them wait. Ziling snickered a few times and slowed down the movements of her hands. She fetched water for Yi Qingluo to take a bath and tied up her slightly complicated hair. About half an hour later Yi Qingluo slowly came out of the house. Yi Fengyu stood at the door with a pale face. Apparently he had been scolded by Yi Tianquang. Yi Qingluo looked at his aggrieved face and touched his head. Have you had breakfast? Sister, outside the house. Look at your pale lips, you must have gotten up in a hurry, you haven't had breakfast yet. Yi Qingluo's fingers slid to Yi Fengyu's face and said with a distressed face, Ling, cook some porridge for 8th young master and add some side dishes. Sister. Yi Fengyu anxiously pulled on her hand. Don't be angry with father, they've already been waiting outside for an hour. Yi Qingluo saw that his eyes were filled with nervousness and the muscles on his body were also tensed up due to nervousness. She knew that it was because he had just entered the Heavenly Academy and was filled with nervousness, so she stopped teasing him. She asked Ziling to bring 2 white steamed buns and gave one to Yi Fengyu. She picked one up and stuffed it into her mouth. Ziling carried a luggage bag on each shoulder and was about to lead the way. Yi Qingluo swallowed the steamed bun and patted Ziling's shoulder. Ling, the Heavenly Academy does not allow maids. In the Heavenly Academy all the students were just students. In the words of the Wu Fuzi gang, come to the academy to learn how to improve your shenqi, how to effectively cultivate your shenqi and how to become stronger. If you still bring attendants or maids to serve you, go home and be a young master or mistress. Ziling, who was originally excited about being able to leave the mansion, immediately dimmed. She pursed her lips. Although she was unwilling, she still obediently put down her bow. Young miss and young master, remember to take good care of yourself. Ziling couldn't hide the disappointment on her face. Yi Qingluo patted her shoulder gently and took over the bow. She said in a gentle voice, Silly girl, in the 3 Springs sect, there's no one I trust except you. She rubbed Ziling's head. Look after the courtyard for me, don't let anyone with ulterior motives come in and do anything. If anyone makes things difficult for you, just use my name and remember the names of those who bullied you. I'll come back 7 days later and punish them one by one as a warning to others. When Ziling heard that she was the most trusted person of the young miss, a smile immediately appeared on her face and nodded vigorously. Ling will definitely look after the courtyard. Ling will remember that no livestock is allowed in. Chapter 144. Ziling's bone structure was actually not bad, it was just that this leg was crippled. Yi Qingluo had asked Old Man Tsang with the help of the Cauldron Dragon, it should not be a problem to repair Ziling's leg. At that time she could let Ziling cultivate together. Miss? Ziling was so touched that tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't expect that young miss would still keep her crippled leg in mind until now. By the time Yi Qing Luo and Yi Fengyu arrived at the entrance of Three Springs sect, another 30 minutes had passed. Sin. Yi Tianquang immediately stopped and scolded in a low voice, "Yi Qing Luo, what are you doing?" Yi Qing Luo shook the steamed bun in her hand and smiled innocently. "Women must dress up before going out." Dress up? Everyone stared at Yi Qing Luo in unison. This exquisite and sweet face didn't even have any makeup on. Dress up? She was lying through her teeth. Yi Tianquang gritted his teeth and suppressed his anger. "Old madam has been waiting at the entrance to send you and you are off. Go and apologize yourself." Old madam was supported by Madame Yuchi, leaning on her walking stick. Her face was gloomy and extremely gloomy. Ever since she came out of seclusion, she had been hearing about Yi Qing Luo every day. Old madam had personally seen this granddaughter whom she had regarded as trash since childhood, now had great ability and shrewdness. If not for Yi Tianquang needed this daughter to be the future matriarch, she really wanted to see how arrogant this Yi Qing Luo was. "So old madam wanted to send me and little you? Why didn't you tell me earlier? If I knew old madam would come, I would have come earlier." Yi Qing Luo looked at old madam with a smile. Old madam's eyebrows twitched slightly, her fingers holding the walking stick tightened. Yi Qing Luo's words had another meaning. Others couldn't understand it, but old madam heard it clearly. She and Yi Tianquang deliberately didn't mention the registration fee, just to force Yi Qing Luo to take the initiative to ask them. They didn't believe that Yi Qing Luo could take out 200 gold coins. Yi Qing Luo's words indicated that old madam hadn't looked for her for the past few days and she was very clear on what she was planning. "Alright, it's the first day to report to the academy. Don't be late." The elder master took a deep breath and his sinister eyes narrowed into a line. Yi Qing Luo's brows raised slightly as she curiously swept a glance at old grandmadam and then looked at Yi Tianquang. Both of their faces were terrifyingly gloomy, but neither of them made things difficult for her for being late. Strange, so strange. "Ah, big sister, that is..." Suddenly Yi Fengyu, who was carrying his luggage and walking in front, cried out in alarm. He pointed at the door and shouted, "Big sister, quickly come and see." When Yi Qing Luo walked out of the residence and followed Yi Fengyu's line of sight, the doubt in her heart was answered. At the entrance of the Three Springs sect, a giant white nine-tailed fox stood proudly with its neck raised high. It was still dragging the luxurious and exquisite carriage behind it. On the back of the nine-tailed fox, a beautiful figure was lying lazily, her purple robes fluttering in the wind. Even if he didn't make a sound, even if he was lying on the nine-tailed fox with his eyes closed, his whole body was still exuding a disdainful and domineering aura. No one dared to look directly at him. As long as one stood within 100 miles of this person, everyone surrendered under his aura, no one was dissatisfied. As if he heard Yi Qing Luo's voice, the man lying on his side suddenly opened his eyes. His inky black eyes were dotted with a diamond-like luster as he stared deeply at Yi Qing Luo. He stretched out his hand towards Yi Qing Luo, his slender fingers were almost transparent white under the sunlight. Chapter 145. Such a simple sentence made a certain part of Yi Qing Luo's heart seem to have been struck by something. Her heart uncontrollably beat fiercely. Looking not far away, the purple-robed man standing against the wind, he stretched out his hand with a smile on the corner of his mouth, it looked so warm. Her legs, uncontrollably moved towards the direction of the nine-tailed fox. Between her brows, there was a touch of warmth. This man. Why was he able to do things that tugged at her heartstrings every time? A few days ago he asked the nine-tailed fox to send her back to the mansion, was to lend her his prestige to build momentum. With the escort of the overlord, how could the Yi family be restrained and dare not easily make things difficult for Yi Qing Luo? But this time he actually came to pick her up personally. So ostentatious, so sensational. All he did was to build up momentum for her, to create a force that belonged solely to her. Even if the Heavenly Academy adhered to the principle that no matter what identity the person who entered the Heavenly Academy, they would be treated as ordinary people. But these words also differed from person to person. Otherwise, it would not happen that Yi Qingling was the daughter of the Yi family, so they neglected to check her weapon. Otherwise, the masters of the academy would not be afraid of old man Guiyu. No matter where, no matter how beautiful the words were, people would always be divided into different classes. Yi Qing Luo was personally picked up by the overlord to register in the Heavenly Academy. At this time, those masters who dared to deliberately make things difficult for Yi Qing Luo? Just like now, after old grandmadam saw Diamo Xian, all the high and mighty stance she had put up, was instantly killed without leaving any dregs. When she saw Yiqing Luo walking towards Diamo Xian, old Grandmadam suddenly thought of something, her face darkened and quickly pushed Madame Yuqi. At the same time she hurriedly shouted to Yiqing Luo, "Seventh, wait, Grandma forgot to give you something." This voice, made Yiqing Luo, who had lost her soul in a trance, suddenly stopped her footsteps. Her slender eyelashes fluttered slightly, her charming eyes regained their clarity. After realizing her own thoughts just now, Yiqing Luo had an impulse to dig a hole and bury herself in it. Damn. Just now she was actually smitten with Diamo Xian. She actually had feelings for Diamo Xian. This was absolutely Diamo Xian's curse. The entire world had become a fantasy, alright? Number 7. Seeing Yiqing Luo stopping in her tracks but not responding for a long time, old Grandmadam couldn't help but called out again. Yiqing Luo turned back and looked over. Old Grandmadam forced a stiff smile and waved to her. She took a brocade bag from Madame Yuqi's hand. Number 7, you have to pay 200 gold coins before entering the Heavenly Academy. This is the registration fee that Grandma prepared for you. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her pink lips curled into a ridiculing arc. Registration fee? That's right, 7th young lady. Ancestor was worried that you would forget, so he ordered me to prepare this bag of gold coins for you. Madame Yuqi nodded repeatedly. Worried that Yiqing Luo would misunderstand, she explained further. Just now I was thinking about your eldest sister and mistakenly passed the gold coin to you. Please calm down, 7th Mississippi. His words were sincere and sincere. That gentle and virtuous look, it was no wonder she was Yiqing Qian's mother and daughter. Yiqing Luo sneered, her eyes were enchanting. Xiao Yu, take out the money bag. Yi Fengyu was slightly stunned, took out the brocade bag from his arms and asked blankly, "What's wrong?" "Return the 200 gold coins to old Grandmadam." Yiqing Luo's smile gradually turned cold as she squinted at Yi Fengyu. Yi Fengyu continued to be at a loss, but he still handed the brocade bag back to Madame Yuqi unconditionally. Madame Yuqi looked at old Grandmadam for help. Chapter 146. Old 7th. Old Grandmadam frowned but suppressed her anger due to Diamo Xian's presence. Yi Tianquang, whose legs were already numb, couldn't hide his dark expression. Yiqing Luo, don't be capricious. The registration fee for the Heavenly Academy is 200 gold coins. Don't tell me you want to follow you into the academy? Yiqing Luo chuckled, her sweet voice revealed a bit of enchanting. Entering the Heavenly Academy is Yu's own effort, it has nothing to do with the Yi family. She spread out the feather fan in her hand and suddenly turned into a fluttering butterfly, quickly flying towards Yi Fengyu. There was a ding sound. The fan hit the money bag and coincidentally swept the money bag to Madame Yuqi. Yiqing Luo stretched out her 5 fingers, the feather fan rotated and fell right into her hand. Let's go. After leaving this sentence, Yiqing Luo walked away incomparably suave. A red dress fluttered like a blooming coquettish rose. Enchanting and flirtatious but with a sharp sting. Can only be seen from afar, not blasphemous. Yi Fengyu looked at the empty palm in a daze and suddenly understood why his sister didn't ask him to return the gold coins to old Grandmadam last night. Sister was an alchemist, naturally she didn't lack those few hundred gold coins. With her character, she would definitely ask him to return the gold coins to old Grandmadam. The reason why she didn't mention it last night was to return the coins to the Yi family in front of so many people today. If he used the Yi family's gold coins, it would be hard for him to refuse all the requests of the Yi family in the Heavenly Academy. His sister had already made all the plans for him. Yi Fengyu's eyes welled up and immediately caught up with his sister's footsteps. Watching the siblings board the 9-tailed fox's carriage, the Yi family's faces were as black as charcoal. Being humiliated by Yiqing Luo in public, the Yi family had lost all their face this time. In mid-air, the 9-tailed fox dragged the carriage towards the Heavenly Academy. Yi Fengyu consciously sat outside the carriage although he was full of curiosity about Diamo Xian, but it was better not to disturb the current situation. Inside the carriage, a purple and a red figure entangled with each other. The minute Yiqing Luo boarded the carriage, she was forcefully pulled into Diamo Xian's arms without any room for rejection. The man's arm tightened around her waist. A head of long black hair, scattered over Yiqing Luo's body, intertwining with her hair. Diamo Xian, how much longer are you going to hug? Yiqing Luo's cheeks were flushed red, her strength wasn't as great as Diamo Xian's, so there was no way she could struggle free. If you have something to say, can't you just say it nicely? Did he have to hug her like this? How could he have a pleasant chat? The man's other hand, his slender fingers running along her hair, gently stroking it. His warm lips pressed against the woman's hair. Above her head, the man's mellow voice came, "Ah Luo, I miss you." 6 words. Yiqing Luo's heart, which was originally beating normally, suddenly sped up. As if triggered by something, the temperature of her cheeks continued to rise. She had heard many sweet nothings. In his previous life, there were countless men who wanted to chase after her, hoping to get a chance to enter the hidden family. There wasn't a man who could move her heart. And in the other world, Lung Fenghua also said a lot of sweet nothings in order to win her back. But none of them could make her blush like Diamo Xian's few simple words, making her heart beat faster. She had to admit that Yan Zheng had long legs. No matter where, in any matter, he had the absolute advantage. Chapter 147. A day apart feels like 3 autumns. I feel like decades have passed since I last saw you. I miss you so much. Diamo Xian rested his head on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. He seemed to like this position very much. Slightly tilting his head, his warm thin lips would always caress Yiqing Luo's skin from time to time. His hot breath sprayed on her neck. Yiqing Luo moved her shoulders unnaturally, trying to avoid him. "Don't move, let me hug you." The man's deep voice sounded in her ear. Yiqing Luo caught a glimpse of his side profile. His front profile was peerless and evildoer. But this side profile, the contours were deep, the corners of his eyes were slightly raised, adding a quiet gentleness. Without the usual flamboyant charm, there was a bit more calmness, a beauty that made one's heart beat faster. For no reason she was mesmerized by him. Her struggling delicate body also unconsciously softened. She pursed her pink lips, trying to hide the blush on her cheeks. Why are you here at the Three Springs sect? As a master, on such an important day, how can you not show up and cheer for your disciple?" Diamo Xian's peach blossom eyes were slightly tilted. His black pupils were suffused with a bewitching and dazzling luster. Yiqing Luo was embarrassed. This joke was about to be spoiled. Can't they have a pleasant chat? Speaking of which, Luo, you haven't called me master yet. Diamo Xian's slender fingers suddenly pinched her chin. His fingertip brushed across her pink lips as he smiled magnificently. "Let me hear it." Yiqing Luo flew into a rage. "I have never personally said that you are my master. Those masters in the academy misunderstood. What has it got to do with me?" A chuckle overflowed from the man's lips. His chest rose up and down because of the laughter. That laughter, clear and melodious, gradually became louder. The man's fingers had slid from Yiqing Luo's chin to the back of her head. His palm exerted a little force and she was buckled into his arms. His slender fingers inserted into Yiqing Luo's hair. Luo seems to like to divert the trouble. Diamo Xian lowered his head slightly. His face was a little closer to Yiqing Luo's. Yiqing Luo shrank back a little, unable to adapt to Diamo Xian's approach. However, the man's thin lips were slightly raised, his devilish charming black eyes deeply locked onto Yiqing Luo. Their eyes met, and their faces came closer and closer. Coincidentally, Yi Fengyu's excited voice came from outside the door. "Sister, we've arrived at the Heavenly Academy." This voice made Yiqing Luo, who was already intoxicated by Diamo Xian's sandalwood fragrance, immediately regain her senses. When she saw that the man's enlarged face was still a little bit away from her, she suddenly pushed the man's chest with both hands. "We're here. I'm leaving first." Yiqing Luo escaped from the carriage and jumped off the carriage. The red figure instantly disappeared into the sea of people. Yi Fengyu carried 2 luggage on his back and chased after her. Looking at the direction where his sister disappeared, he was at a loss. Hey, sister, you haven't paid me the registration fee. What should I do if you just leave like this?" A brocade pouch fell on Yi Fengyu's luggage with a thud. Behind him, the man's unique magnetic voice sounded leisurely. "There are 500 gold coins here, enough for your expenses until graduation." Yi Fengyu turned around in a daze, looking at the raised edge of the carriage. He nervously swallowed his saliva. That Overlord's sister has money, I don't." Chapter 148. At the Overlord, you took it from you? Wasn't it the money earned from alchemy? Using the Overlord's money to pay for the registration fee, including all expenses? Who was the Overlord? The legend of the Nirvana realm. His stuff was also a legend. It was said that even a piece of leaf in the backyard of the Imperial Palace could be auctioned for dozens of gold coins. He just farted and everyone was scrambling to say that it smelled good. He actually gave him money. Yi Fengyu's little heart thumped non-stop. This little guy has no time to refine the elixirs sold to the merchants these days. Dmo Xian curled his lips into a faint smile. Based on his understanding of Yiqing Luo, the last swore that she had money, it must be from the profound phoenix ring. Yi Fengyu stood stiffly on the spot. Stunned. Completely stunned. He clutched the money bag in a daze and gave a deep bow to the carriage. Thank you, future brother-in-law. Leaving this sentence, Yi Fengyu hurriedly bowed and ran away. Dmo Xian was stunned for a moment. The words, future brother-in-law, floated in his mind. His eyebrows overflowed with a warm smile. Brother-in-law. This title was not bad at all. With a joyful smile on his face, Dmo Xian lazily lay down in the carriage and lifted his leg to give the nine-tailed fox's butt a kick. Little Nine, who asked you to run so fast? Can't you be tactful and give me some time to spend with Aluo? The nine-tailed fox's tail moved and her black eyes blinked in grievance. Her heart almost collapsed. Damn it. It had already flown 8 to 10 laps around the three-spring city, okay? If it continued to fly, the future mistress would miss the registration time, okay? At the entrance of the Heavenly Academy, people came and went. At a glance, it was a dense mass of people. There were students who came to register, elders who sent their children, and people who came to watch. By the time Yiqing Luo stopped, she was already in the crowd. Where was the figure of Yi Fengyu and Dmo Xian? The money had not been given to little Yu. How was he going to register? Yiqing Luo patted her face. Her heart was extremely annoyed. How could she always be led by the nose by Dmo Xian? He was a hooligan, so she should be even more of a hooligan than him. Yiqing Luo, who had never known how to write the word shy, fled for the first time in her life. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt that she had no face to see Dmo Xian again. The most important thing now was to find Yi Fengyu. He couldn't miss the registration time. Yiqing Luo couldn't sense his presence at all due to the surging crowd. Suddenly, Yiqing Luo's peripheral vision seemed to catch a glimpse of a white figure, disappearing in a flash. She frowned. Just now, was that a nine-tailed fox? Nine-tailed fox. As long as she followed Nine-tailed Fox, Yi Fengyu should still be waiting for her there. Yiqing Luo's feet moved as she immediately sprinted towards the place where the white figure had appeared earlier. She stopped at the back door of the Heavenly Academy. How could there be a nine-tailed fox in this empty and narrow street? Not even a strand of hair could be seen. Could it be an illusion? This back door was quite strange. The front door was filled with people, but the back door was completely silent, giving off a strange atmosphere. Yiqing Luo frowned and was about to leave when she suddenly heard a soft rebuke. Get your hand off me. Stay away from me. The voice came from the corner of the street. Wasn't the Heavenly Academy known for its rigorous learning style? How could there be someone so bold at the back door of the academy? Take your hand off me. Ah. Chapter 149. That woman's long green robe was torn into a mess. Her long black hair covered her face, and her hands kept flailing about as she angrily shouted, You dare to touch me? I'll kill you. But her warning and struggle were useless. Following that, a man pounced on the woman. The woman screamed even more miserably. While struggling, she found Yiqing Luo standing by the side as if she saw her savior. Miss, save me, save me. The man tore the woman's clothes and turned his head to look at Yiqing Luo when he heard the cry for help. That was a protruding mouth and monkey cheeks as he spat viciously. Little girl, get lost. The woman cried for help immediately. Yiqing Luo frowned as a meaningful smile appeared on her face. Not knowing why, she felt something was wrong. She squinted her eyes and suddenly turned around as if she didn't see them and was ready to leave. Behind her, a violent roar came from the man, Slut. What followed was the woman's painful cry, Ah. The woman took advantage of the time when the man and Yiqing Luo were talking and struggled to escape from the man's side. The man took out a dagger and stabbed it into the woman's leg. That stab made the woman's calf bloody and the woman's face turned pale in pain as she kept screaming. The man pushed the woman to the ground rudely and pressed on top of her again. The woman screamed and begged Yiqing Luo to save her. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she stopped in her tracks and turned her head. The moment she turned around, she felt a chill on her back. From the corner of her eyes, she caught a glimpse of a dazzling long knife, slashing towards her. Her strong perception made Yiqing Luo instinctively display her footwork. Clang clang, the long knife slashed empty air and made a swishing sound in midair. The person who sneak attacked her from behind was dressed in black with a veil over his face, holding a long knife in his hand. Killer? You're smart. That killer sneered as he pointed the long knife at Yiqing Luo. Hand over the things on you and perhaps I can let you live for a few more days. Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched. What the hell, dressed up like this in broad daylight? Was he afraid that others wouldn't know he was a killer? Thinks. In this day and age there were actually people robbing her? When the killer saw that Yiqing Luo had no reaction, he leapt into the air and the long knife came piercing towards her face. The saber wind exuded an extremely cold air. Yiqing Luo tiptoed lightly and took a step back. She narrowed her eyes and fixed her sight on the killer's chest. There was a black light hovering around the assassin's heart. The Mystic Profound Realm should be around Mystic Profound 3rd grade. A Mystic Profound Realm assassin, the other party really thought highly of her. Yiqing Luo snorted lightly, although the opponent's profound grade was above her, but in terms of overall strength she might not necessarily lose. If you want to take something from this young matriarch, you have to use something in exchange. Yiqing Luo opened her feather fan and swept it across her pink lips, revealing an enchanting smile. In the next moment, those slightly narrowed eyes suddenly opened. Her pink lips parted slightly and her voice was sweet as she spat out a few words. With your life? Her words had just ended when Yiqing Luo's figure swayed. Only a red blur could be seen in the air. Ugh, that killer didn't even have time to put up a defensive posture and was sent flying. Yiqing Luo slowly retracted her leg, waved her feather fan lightly and smiled incomparably enchanting. Do you still want it? Chapter 150. He sneered. Yiqing Luo's lips also curled into a smile. The corners of her eyes rose slightly, outlining a demonic arc. Her fiery pink lips were extremely enchanting. This smile was reflected in the killer's eyes, making him feel as though he was being targeted by the devil from hell. The feather fan on Yiqing Luo's fingertips flew into the air in a flash. The feather fan was like a fire dragon, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it whizzed towards Yiqing Luo's back. The flame was enchanting, colliding with something. Then she heard the sound of a heavy object falling behind her. Ah! Woo! Following that, 2 screams were heard at the same time. Yiqing Luo tipped her toes and leaped sideways, landing steadily 5 steps away from the killer. So many flaws, still trying to trick me? Yiqing Luo sneered as she spread out her hands. The feather fan made a turn and fell back into her palm. The place where Yiqing Luo was standing was in a triangular terrain. On the left was the killer who fell on the ground, clutching his chest as he panted heavily. On the right was the man and woman who were tugging at each other, also lying on the ground. How did you know we are together? That woman's face, there was no longer any trace of pain from being taken advantage of, as she asked with a cold face. Because he... Yiqing Luo pointed at the man lying on the ground, her eyes squinted as she gave a charming smile. As a man who was releasing his beast bath after seeing this young matriarch, he actually berated this young matriarch to leave, which is illogical. That man and woman's brows twitched. Wasn't this lady overly confident of her own looks? Although the monkey-like man wanted to reply in this way, but when he saw the smiling face, charming eyes of the woman, he swallowed his words. What she said seemed to make sense. He couldn't refute. Using such a method to attract my attention, then sneak and attack from behind? Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. Unfortunately, this young matriarch has never been a good person. Yiqing Luo spread out her fingers, a burst of profound qi condensed on the feather fan. Immediately the feather fan drew out a few small knives which were emitting flames, like scattered flowers in the rain, directly towards the 3 men. The 3 people on the ground looked at each other. Simultaneously, they slammed their palms on the ground and soared into the sky. He swiftly avoided the fire blade and attacked Yiqing Luo at the same time. The moves and movements of the 3 were almost exactly the same, like mirrors facing each other, repeating the same movements. Profound qi burst forth from the 3 of them with irresistible force. Indeed, not an ordinary killer. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. If he could use such a method to attract her attention, he would naturally use a weak method to lower her vigilance. These tricks, Yiqing Luo had long been tired of playing them in her past life. Since you've been discovered, don't blame us for giving you a painful death. The expressions of the 3 assassins turned cold. They leaped up at the same time and fiercely struck out with their palms. Rumble. The sound of the earth quaking and the mountains shaking caused the ground to crack. The majestic and terrifying profound qi was like a mountain torrent, burying Yiqing Luo in it. A mere low-grade yellow Xian practitioner dares to act impudently in front of us. The assassin snorted disdainfully. The number of people in the world who could escape from the combined attack of the 3 of them could be counted on one hand. There's nothing left of her, go and find the ring on her finger. The assassin looked at the woman. The woman revealed some displeasure. She's already exploded into pieces. You want me to find a ring? His lordship instructed we must bring that ring back. Chapter 151. Ring? A clear and melodious voice came from behind them. The three of them were aghast as they looked back immediately, only to see Yiqing Luo's red dress fluttering amidst the flying sand and gravel. Her skirt swayed along with the strong airwaves, like a dazzling fire lotus, standing on the fire. After the airwaves dissipated, Yiqing Luo's breathtaking face appeared in front of them. Yiqing Luo. She was not dead yet. The three killers' faces changed drastically. They had not expected Yiqing Luo's strength to be so strong, to be able to avoid their combined palm strike. Who is the lord you are talking about? Why do you want my ring? Yiqing Luo walked slowly towards them. The three of them were aghast as they stared at her vigilantly and subconsciously moved back. Obviously there was no fluctuation of profound qi on Yiqing Luo. It was obvious that Yiqing Luo's profound grade was below theirs. But the trio's fear and terror towards Yiqing Luo drove their body's instincts to avoid her. Not willing to say? Yiqing Luo snorted, her feather fan pressed against her pink lips as she smiled enchantingly. Since the three of you are unwilling to cooperate, then there's no point in keeping you here. Her words had just ended when the feather fan on her fingertips flew out ferociously. Like a raging flame, it engulfed everything it passed through. In the blink of an eye, it had arrived in front of the three killers. The red flame condensed profound qi, enveloping the three of them tightly. Good fellow, young matriarch Yi is indeed powerful. The killer looked at Yiqing Luo coldly and immediately retracted his gaze, exchanging glances with the other two beside him. Immediately, the three of them used their hands and feet to condense their profound qi once again and struck out a palm strike that could collapse the mountains and crack the earth. This palm strike was even more imposing than the previous one. Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly as her brows knitted slightly. Her profound grade, under the combined force of the three of them, would be reduced to slag in seconds. These three people's profound qi was oppressive. Even with her set of footwork, she could not avoid it safely. Just now she was able to avoid that palm strike because she had been painstakingly studying the blink movement for the past few days. Seeing the profound qi blasting towards her, Yiqing Luo concentrated and held her breath. His figure suddenly turned into a red afterimage and disappeared. Boom boom boom, a thunderous sound reverberated as that palm wind struck the spot where Yiqing Luo was standing at earlier. The ground cracked open, and the violent profound energy stacked up layer by layer. For a moment the entire street was engulfed in billowing dust. The next time Yiqing Luo appeared, she was already at the end of the alley. Facing her, the raging wind was still howling, fluttering Yiqing Luo's long hair, fluttering her elegant long dress. When the smoke dissipated, the three assassins were nowhere to be seen except for the rubble in front of them. Ran away. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as her gaze immediately sensed the surroundings vigilantly. Pa pa pa. Ding-ling. Pa pa pa. Ding-ling. Right at this moment, a crisp sound of a slap resounded. Yiqing Luo was in a state of alertness when she was shocked by the sudden noise as her feather fan was instantly pinched on her fingertips. At the corner of the street, a petite figure was walking over. That was a young lady who looked like she was carved out of jade. Her height was estimated to be 1.4 meters. Yiqing Luo's body in this other world was just right for her height. And this young lady standing in front of her was actually shorter than her by a full head. She was dressed in a seemingly shabby pink long dress. The edge of the skirt hung a few strands of fluffy little balls, which made the young lady incomparably cute. Chapter 152. This appearance was a living Lolita. But the young lady's pair of indifferent and cold eyes were extremely inconsistent with her appearance. That was a pair of noble, arrogant eyes. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes as she examined the young lady in front of her, secretly guessing if she was a friend or foe. But in a blink of an eye, that young lady's eyes had lost all its brilliance as she lowered her eyelids and the applause in her hands stopped abruptly. This change. The change in that pair of eyes. It really aroused one's interest. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up as she hid away the defensive expression on her face. Little lass, how long have you been watching the show? Those three people are Godless Island's three evils. The young lady's voice was soft and it was an extremely pure baby's voice. This kind of voice coupled with this appearance. Yiqing Luo almost suspected that the chilly indifference she saw in the young lady's eyes earlier, was it a misconception? Stabilizing her thoughts, Yiqing Luo sized her up. Godless Island? Three evils? Godless Island. She had heard of it before. Nirvana Realm's #1 evil force, #1 island. It was rumored that it was comparable to the Imperial Palace's evil force. 3 evils? What the hell was that? The young lady opened her mouth at the right time. Those are the 3 loyal little dogs raised by the Godless Island's island lord. They are triplets and have extremely strong telepathy. I have only seen one person who can deal with the 3 of them at the same time. Triplets? What a joke. Those 3 people, no matter how she looked, they didn't look like triplets. No one knows what the 3 evils look like. Other than killing, their disguise skills are the best. The young lady saw the astonishment in Yiqing Luo's eyes as she raised her brows and continued. Disguise skills. That's right, if they were Godless Island's killers, they would not make such a low-level mistake. That pair of man and woman who were tugging and pulling in front of her were definitely in disguise. Why would Godless Island's people look for me? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly as she lowered her eyes and stared at the ring on her ring finger. The young lady spread out her hands and shrugged. Didn't the 3 evils say it was because of the ring in your hand? The blood-colored jade ring was faintly leaping with a ball of flowing, subtle fire. This ring was given to her by DMO Xian. What? Did the island lord of Godless Island want DMO Xian's ring? Could it be that the profound phoenix ring was hiding some sort of secret? Yiqing Luo's brows creased tightly, and just as she was about to sink into deep thoughts, she suddenly discovered that the Lolita young lady was still in front of her. Why do you know so much about the Godless Island? Compared to the Imperial Palace, the Godless Island was even more mysterious. There were very few people who could accurately recognize the disguised Wu Sansha as Wu Sansha and confirm that the 3 of them were from Godless Island. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed. The corners of her long and narrow eyes rose slightly as her lips curled into a smile which didn't look like a smile. You are from the Godless Island? Pausing, Yiqing Luo's tone rose slightly, her sweet voice added a few hints of enchanting. Or, you want me to target Godless Island? The girl blinked her lifeless eyes. She tilted her head, her slightly curly hair covering half of her face. Although she was expressionless, her appearance was still adorable and touching. She seemed to be unable to understand the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo sneered, the devilish glint in her eyes suddenly stopped. The feather fan in her hands was like a blazing rainbow, striking towards the young lady's face. Chapter 153. The young girl stood there in a daze and did not evade. There was no fluctuation of profound qi around her. Yiqing Luo's brows knitted tightly as she squinted her eyes and stared deeply at the young girl's chest. There was no trace of profound jade heart glow at all. Could it be, this little Lolita was an ordinary person? But that pair of cold and indifferent eyes of little Lolita could not be erased from her mind. Just as that flame was just a little distance away from the young girl. The young girl's head moved slightly as she spat out a sentence without any expression. Coming. Just as her voice fell, without waiting for Yiqing Luo to ponder what was the meaning of this coming, she heard a low roar from the other end of the street. Who dares to create trouble in the Heavenly Academy? Immediately, Yiqing Luo felt a strong profound qi fluctuation coming from the direction of the sound. How did little Lolita know that the people from the Heavenly Academy were here? Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze from the street and looked at little Lolita again. There was no one in front of her. Yiqing Luo's expression changed. That little Lolita was indeed not an ordinary person. She could actually disappear under her eyelids. Why couldn't she see little Lolita's profound jade heart? Yiqing Luo had no time to think about these questions. Those masters from the Heavenly Academy had already led a group of guards to the street. The leading master was one of the 3 judges who sat on the main stage during the ability assessment. The moment he saw Yiqing Luo and saw the mess on the ground, his grizzled brows wrinkled into a ball. 7th Miss Yi, what's going on? The master's face revealed a difficult expression. Originally he still had a proud look, but now he had to show a smiling face to Yiqing Luo. They were in high spirits at the front door of the Heavenly Academy, welcoming the new students. Immediately they heard the guard report that there was a profound qi fluctuation at the back door of the Heavenly Academy. Moreover, the profound grade was not a match and the destructive power was also very strong. The master thought that it was another school who specially came to create trouble on the day of the new students' admission. With that, he led the guards and rushed over in a threatening manner. But why was there only Yiqing Luo alone in the mess and among the flying sand and gravel? Could it be that powerful profound qi fluctuation was released by Yiqing Luo? There were too many people and I accidentally lost my way. Coincidentally, I met some people who wanted to sneak into the Heavenly Academy from the back door, so I taught them a lesson. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and lied with a straight face. Then he shook his head helplessly and sighed, "But, the other party's profound rank is above mine. It's a pity to let them escape." Hearing this, the headmaster's face suddenly changed. "Who is it?" "As for the person, I'm not sure." Yiqing Luo's eyes revealed a crafty look as she lowered her voice and chuckled. "But, there was a student from the Heavenly Academy present at that time and she seemed to recognize those people." "Who are they?" The headmaster frowned. He was even more certain that those people were sent by other schools. Every year, when they recruited new students, the various academies would rack their brains to recruit new students. They wished that they could take all the geniuses for themselves so that they could become the best academy. As the best academy that had stood strong for many years, it naturally became a thorn in the eyes of the other academies. Those people actually knew the students of the Heavenly Academy? Could it be there was a traitor? Chapter 154. Yiqing Luo briefly described the little Lolita's appearance. She believed that it would be a piece of cake for the master to find such a unique little Lolita. Yiqing Luo restrained the teasing smile on her lips and smiled. "I shall not disturb the master's protection of the academy. I have not registered yet, so I'll head over first." She had said that she was not a good person. Since the little Lolita wanted to play mysterious with her, if she did not fight back, was she still human? It would be a piece of cake for her to find the little Lolita with the help of a famous master in the Heavenly Academy. She didn't need to be mysterious, she just needed to wait for the little Lolita to take the bait. After listening to Yiqing Luo's description, a strange look appeared on the master's face. When he heard that she had not registered yet, he nodded repeatedly. When Yiqing Luo was about to leave, the master called her again. "This is the first time old man Guiyu accepted a disciple. He has been pacing back and forth nervously in the courtyard since early morning. If 7th Miss is free, please bring 8th young master over to have a look." Yiqing Luo smiled and bowed slightly to the master. "Thank you for your reminder, I will bring Xiaoyu over after the registration." Seeing that Yiqing Luo finally smiled, the master heaved a sigh of relief. There are too many arrays around the Heavenly Academy. If 7th Miss can't find the registration place, let the guards send you there, lest you break into the array and harm your safety. Yiqing Luo was worried about not knowing the way and naturally nodded when she heard this decision. "Wow! Heavens! I can actually see the Mu brothers at the registration time." One of the students screamed in disbelief. "Don't tell me the Mu brothers have relatives enrolled in the school?" It was said that the Mu brothers would only appear in the academy during the High Profound class. But this time not only did they appear during the ability assessment but also. Speaking of which, I remember now. During the ability assessment, the Mu brothers seemed to be the only one who went to the challenge between the Yi 7th Miss and the Yi 4th Miss. Yiqing Luo looked towards the direction of the crowd and indeed saw the Mu brothers, like a celebrity meeting, struggling to move forward in the crowd. Especially when she saw the bitter look on Mu Zifei's face and the sullen expression in his eyes, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh out loud. 7th Miss and the 2 young masters of the Mu family. Guard Yi noticed Yiqing Luo's line of sight and asked out of curiosity. After asking, he stopped abruptly and changed the topic. "The 2 young masters of the Mu family are students from the High Profound class. After 7th Miss has registered, I will help you to memorize the route to the High Profound class." After that, the guard scratched his head. "That's not right. Miss 7 is the young master of the 3 Springs sect and the disciple of the Overlord. I don't think anyone in the academy would dare to bully Miss 7. Yiqing Luo smiled without saying a word. The 2 of them, one in front and one behind, passed through the crowd and were about to reach the registration area. Another wave of clamor was heard, followed by exclamations from all around. "It's the Yuchi clan's 3rd young master. I heard that 3rd young master Yuchi is the first new student to be admitted into the academy." "Yuchi?" Hearing this surname, Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose slightly as she looked over. She saw a figure approaching from afar at an extremely fast speed. That person was sitting on the back of a giant leopard, dressed in a smoky brocade robe, the collar extended to the sleeves and was embroidered with gold. Chapter 155. The 3rd young master of the Yuchi family, Yuchi-e. That giant leopard was at least a high-level magical beast. To be able to ride on a magical beast to report was enough to prove how strong he was. Especially that leopard, it was ferocious and was not to be trifled with. It was indeed the style of the Yuchi family to appear in such a domineering manner. Yiqing Luo sneered and withdrew her gaze. She had no interest in Yuchi. That guard had been wondering if he had said something wrong. At this moment, when he heard Yiqing Luo's laughter and saw her staring at Yuchi, he hurriedly said, "That is the third young master of the Yuchi family, one of the 4 great families in the West Continent. For this year's enrollment, 3 of the 4 major families have sent their children over and they have all passed the assessment. If there are no accidents, they should be entering the high profound class. 3 families' children were admitted into the Heavenly Academy? It was no wonder that the master was worried that people from other schools would come over to make trouble." Yiqing Luo nodded lightly, "Don't bother about insignificant people." After that, she turned to the registration counter and took the registration form. Seeing that she was filling in the form, the guard touched his nose and kept quiet. After filling in the form, Yiqing Luo took out 200 gold coins from the profound phoenix ring and handed it over together with the registration form. The procedure was very simple. In less than half an hour, the master handed over a wooden token, a badge and a piece of paper with black and white characters. The wooden token was the size of a palm and felt very good. You could vaguely feel the surge of spiritual chi from the wooden token. It should be made from a good spiritual tree. As for the badge, it was gray and dull without any luster or pattern. Looking at the paper, it was the receipt of the school uniform. Yiqing Luo kept them all and immediately took out another bag of gold coins. She smiled and said, "Master, I got separated from my brother. The registration fee is with me. If he comes to register later, please inform him for me." She said Yi Fengyu's name and handed over the gold coins. Yiqing Luo became famous in the ability assessment and had a close relationship with the overlord. The master recognized her at a glance. "I'm so busy that I'm confused. Just now, 8th young master Yi had paid the registration fee and entered the school. He specifically instructed me to inform 7th Miss when I see her." Paid the registration fee? Yi Fengyu had so many gold coins on him? Could it be, in Yiqing Luo's mind, an image of a man dressed in purple suddenly appeared? Diemo-Xian? At once Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. She shook her head and thanked him. After the guard sent Yiqing Luo into the academy, he then left. Before he left, he also gave Yiqing Luo a handbook of the Heavenly Academy, saying that this was a gift from the master to her. In this handbook, there were many records of the Heavenly Academy's glorious history, the Academy's rules and moral ideals. The last few pages had some simple introductions about the Heavenly Academy. It was said that there were no more than 100 copies of this manual in the entire Academy. Those who had the handbook were either from powerful families or powerful individuals. They were all people that the headmaster of the Academy wanted to nurture. From the handbook, Yiqing Luo also understood that the wooden token given to her by the master was the proof to enter and exit the school, which was equivalent to a student ID. The wooden plaque contained all the information of the student, even the changes in the profound grade were recorded clearly. This was also convenient for the teachers of the academy to understand the abilities and aptitudes of each student. And that badge was like the horizontal bar on the shoulder of the master. It was a symbol of status. The badges of freshmen were all dusty. Only after the class was allocated and the class guide opened it, the badge would show the class that the freshmen were in. Chapter 156. Yiqing Luo touched the badge on her chest. She still had no idea what class she was in. Probably high profound class. Although her profound grade was not high enough to enter the high profound class, but high profound class should be without a doubt. High profound class. There were quite a few acquaintances there. In the Heavenly Academy she might not be able to settle down and just go to school. Yiqing Luo collected her thoughts and kept the school's handbook. She injected profound qi into the wooden token according to the handbook's instructions. The wooden tablet flashed slightly, and a row of golden words appeared on it. Name, Yiqing Luo. Gender, female. Age, 15. Profound grade, yellow. Profound 9th grade. Identity, young matriarch of Three Springs Sect Yi family 7th Missy. Yiqing Luo's finger rubbed the top and in a flash, the location of her dormitory appeared. Following the display, Yiqing Luo arrived at the dormitory and there was no one inside. No wonder it was the best academy. The environment of the dormitory was excellent, even better than her courtyard in the Yi family. Yiqing Luo looked through the rooms one by one. There were a total of 4 rooms. The layout and decoration of each room were exactly the same. Perhaps it was the women's room. There were a few strings of shell-shaped wind chimes hanging on the wall of each room. Each room also had a window, A mahogany square table was placed next to the window with a bouquet of gorgeous blue flowers. Ow ow! Chi-Chi's white fluffy little body sprang out from Yiqing Luo's shoulder and let out a low moan. Chi-Chi. Yiqing Luo was overjoyed and rubbed Chi-Chi's little head. Have you rested well? Chi-Chi let out a cry and rubbed its head against Yiqing Luo's palm. Its pair of tiger eyes had turned into a curved line from smiling. Yiqing Luo chuckled softly, her eyes were filled with gentleness. Other than the things the academy had prepared, the 4 rooms were empty. Obviously the other roommates had not been to the dormitory yet. Yiqing Luo randomly chose a room and walked in. Her belongings were with Yi Fengyu. She could only wait until the master held the freshman assembly tonight to meet him and get her belongings back. The room had been cleaned by professional people. It was spotless and free of dust. Yiqing Luo lay directly on the bed and hugged Chi-Chi on her abdomen, her fingers caressing its head. For the next few days we're going to be busy, so we'll have to trouble you. Chi-Chi nodded. Towards Chi-Chi, Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with guilt. From Old Man Song, Yiqing Luo found out that the contract between Chi-Chi and her was a blood pact, which meant that Chi-Chi would forever be her battle pet for all eternity. The blood contract was enough to prove Chi-Chi's loyalty. But the biggest drawback was, Chi-Chi's strength would also be suppressed because Yiqing Luo's profound grade was too low. After forming a contract with Chi-Chi, Chi-Chi spent most of its time sleeping in the pet beast space. For pet beasts, sleep was a catalyst for growth and evolution. As one of the 4 ancient saint beasts, Chi-Chi's strength was suppressed to 0 in an instant. This was extremely damaging to the beast's body. Even though Chi-Chi knew the consequences, she still chose to form a contract with her without hesitation. This made Yiqing Luo even more touched. She secretly swore in her heart that she would find her profound jade heart as soon as possible and work hard to improve her strength and raise her profound grade. Awoodawu, as if it sensed its master's thoughts, Chi-Chi's little paws moved towards Yiqing Luo and its little head rubbed against her. At this moment, the dormitory room's door was opened. Chapter 157. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. Living with such a barbaric roommate, it would be difficult for him to have a peaceful life in the future. She heard the sound of the door being slammed shut, and that pampered girl walked briskly into the dormitory. Yiqing Luo could hear the girl's footsteps. It seemed that she was checking the rooms one by one. She could vaguely hear the girl grumbling in a low voice, "What kind of lousy place is this? Not even half as good as home. Father really has the heart to send me here to suffer." She could hear that this was a spoiled brat. After a while, the brat opened the door to Yiqing Luo's room. Seeing that someone was lying on the bed, her expression changed immediately, pointing at Yiqing Luo and cursing. "Hey, who do you think you are? How dare you? I haven't chosen a room yet and you've already occupied it." The pampered and willful brat thought that no matter where she went, she was not afraid of anything. Seeing that Yiqing Luo was lying motionless, the brat flew into a rage and strode forward, stretching out her hand to grab Yiqing Luo. "I want this room, get out of here." She had just moved into the dormitory and met a lunatic. It had nothing to do with her if the lunatic provoked others. However, this lunatic had to provoke her. Yiqing Luo's face sank, her charming eyes narrowed coldly. "Get out of here." Just as the brat's hand was about to grab Yiqing Luo, her wrist was held tightly by Yiqing Luo. 5 fingers exerted a little force, only to hear the sound of bones breaking. The brat cried out in pain, clutching her wrist and staggered back. How dare you lay your hands on me? Do you know that I am one of the 4 great families, Shangguan family's 5th Miss Shangguan Lu Li? Shangguan Lu Li's wrist was in severe pain. The girl who had never suffered the slightest grievance at home couldn't stop her tears from flowing out. Yiqing Luo sneered and slowly sat up straight. Chi-Chi's small body nimbly jumped onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder, poked out her little head and stared at Shangguan Lu Li fiercely. "Shangguan? The miss of the Shangguan family, is this all you can do?" Hearing Yiqing Luo's ridicule, Shangguan Lu Li's tears flowed even more violently. She stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo, especially when she saw that sweet and enchanting face of Yiqing Luo. Her heart was filled with jealousy. His vision fell onto the little fur ball on Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Chi-Chi's ferocious look was not fierce at all when paired with this furry white cat's appearance. On the contrary, it was adorable. As soon as Shangguan Lioli saw this cute little thing, her eyes immediately couldn't move away. She rubbed her wrist and stared at Chi-Chi, putting on an expression as if she was bestowing a gift. "Give me the kitten on your shoulder and I'll let you have this room. I won't hold it against you for hurting me." "Miss, which eye of yours saw that I didn't want to be calculative with you?" Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. This brat was rather similar to Lung Fenghua. Both of them were living in their own world. Scram. Yiqing Luo leaned back against the headboard and spat out a word coldly. Her knees bent slightly, one hand rested on her knee and closed her eyes. She didn't even bother to look at Shangguan Luli. Chapter 158. Shangguan Liuli gritted her teeth in hatred and wanted to rush up to teach Yiqing Luo a lesson. But when she thought of how Yiqing Luo broke her hand without hesitation, she didn't dare to act rashly. When had a spoiled and arrogant girl ever been bullied like this? Looking at Yiqing Luo's indifferent and arrogant look, Shangguan Liuli felt even more wronged and angry. A pair of hazy, tearful eyes burned with a fiery light. Just you wait. Don't think that you don't have to worry about my identity in the academy. Not to mention outside the academy, I have 100 ways to torture you to death. Even in the academy, I can still make you wish you were dead. Yiqing Luo suddenly opened her eyes, a pair of charming eyes, suffused with a cold chill. Just one look and Shangguan Liuli was scared to take a few steps back. Shangguan Liuli's face was full of shame and anger. The dignified fifth miss of Shangguan was actually scared to this look by a little slut. If this was spread out, how was she going to mix around? You wait for me, my brother is a student of the high profound class. After saying that, Shangguan Liuli wiped her tears and ran out. She happened to bump into the woman who opened the dormitory door and walked in. The woman's figure was petite and dressed in pink. Shangguan Liuli was still angry and didn't dare to vent her anger on Yiqing Luo. Now that she had a punching bag, it was also to prove that her identity was strong. Without any explanation, a slap landed on the face of the woman who bumped into her. I'm owing you. Didn't I say, don't even think of stepping into this dormitory today? How dare you defy my orders? The woman fell to the ground from the slap. Her small hands, supported on the ground, slightly curled up long hair, covered half of the woman's face. However, his pair of gloomy and lifeless eyes were so calm that it was terrifying. After being slapped, the woman didn't get angry, didn't cry, and didn't make a fuss. She just quietly and silently tried to get up. However, her forbearance greatly agitated Shangguan Liuli. Shangguan Liuli stepped on the woman's pink sleeve with one foot and kicked hard with the other. Who allowed you to get up? Crawl out of here. The woman was kicked again. However, the expression on his face did not change. There wasn't even pain or a frown on his face. She didn't move and just lay on the ground. She allowed Shangguan Liuli to step on her sleeve. Through the open door, Yiqing Luo could see everything that happened in the hall. He also recognized the woman on the ground with a single glance. Wasn't she the little Lolita who told Yiqing Luo about Godless Island and Godless Three Devils at the academy's back door? Unexpectedly, she was thinking of asking the headmaster to find the little Lolita. He and the little Loli became roommates. This was fate. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she flipped over and got up from the bed. She slowly walked towards the little Loli. Shangguan Liuli's expression changed. You? What are you going to do? You're too noisy. Yiqing Luo picked her ears and lazily lifted her eyelids. It's very ear-piercing, I can't stand it. In other words, he was insulting Shangguan Liuli's voice. Not waiting for Shangguan Liuli to cry out in anger, Yiqing Luo had already walked past her and stopped in front of the little Lolita. Yiqing Luo bent down and stretched out her hand to the little Lolita. Your name is Emoing you? The little Lolita nodded silently. A pair of dull eyes stared at Yiqing Luo blankly. She wanted to put her hand in Yiqing Luo's hand, but her sleeve was stepped on by Shangguan Liuli and could not move. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways, the corner of her mouth raised into a shallow arc. Chapter 159. In this era the fist was the hard truth. She had merely let Shangguan Liuli taste some bitterness. At this moment Shangguan Liuli was filled with fear towards Yiqing Luo. She stomped her feet and angrily rebuked. Don't you know who she is? She is a waste from the earth profound class. The one with the worst aptitude and foundation and never goes to class. Shangguan Liuli felt extremely aggrieved. This woman didn't fawn on her, one of the four great families, but helped a waste instead. Was she sick in the head? Yiqing Luo didn't know what Shangguan Liuli was thinking and wasn't interested to know. She chuckled and her eyes were filled with endless ridicule. So what? Waste? Earth profound class? Yiqing Luo didn't believe that a person with that pair of cold and proud eyes would be a waste. Even now, Mo Yu's lifeless eyes were destined to not be an ordinary person. What's more, to be able to clearly mention the godless island and the three evils would be a waste. Shangguan Liuli was choked by Yiqing Luo's words and turned to leave with a flushed face. Lowly trash is lowly trash. If the two of you get together, you'll be able to form a group of trash. Bah. Shangguan Liuli slammed the door with a loud bang. The entire dormitory seemed to be shaken. Why didn't you fight back? Yiqing Luo held her hand and pulled her up with a little force. Mo Yingyu tilted her head and looked at Yiqing Luo with a pair of lifeless eyes without saying a word. Even the hand that held Yiqing Luo's hand was frozen there and didn't withdraw. It was like a puppet without a soul. This thought stunned Yiqing Luo and she subconsciously tightened her grip on Mo Yingyu's hand. The touch was soft, smooth and the temperature was normal. 5 fingers clasped her wrist and there was a pulse beating. She was 100% sure that Mo Yingyu was a person. But, why did a person live like a puppet without any expression or soul? Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and let go of Mo Yingyu's hand. She didn't want to say and Yiqing Luo naturally didn't bother to ask. It was until Yiqing Luo returned to her own room and was about to close the door when that little Lolita who had been standing at the same spot in silence, slowly raised her head. Fighting back is troublesome. I'm tired. It was still the same childish voice, spitting out the words one by one. Because he found it troublesome and tiring, he obediently took the beating? This answer made Yiqing Luo really speechless. Then, at the back door of the academy, why did you watch the show in the dark and even lead me to change my target to the godless island? This time Mo Yingyu answered quickly, that's the 3 evils of Wu. How do you prove it? Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes. Mo Yingyu's face was expressionless, her eyes empty. Yiqing Luo couldn't use her ability to see through people's hearts on Mo Yingyu. Mo Yingyu blinked her eyes. Her delicate and adorable little face began to change slightly. Her delicate and thin eyebrows were knitted together. Her entire face was wrinkled, and a trace of hostility appeared between her brows. Her pink lips pouted as she muttered in a flustered and exasperated manner, "Troublesome. How troublesome. So troublesome." She flicked her sleeves and the 2 pink fur balls on her sleeves swayed. The black bell gave out a jingle-jingle sound. Immediately, Mo Yingyu went straight into the room next to Yiqing Luo's and closed the door. Yiqing Luo touched her nose. This was the first time she met with a rebuff since she came to this strange world. Chapter 160. Yiqing Luo rested in the dormitory for a few hours until she heard the school's huge bell ringing. She rubbed her eyes and got up from the bed. Looking at the sky outside the window, it should be around 5 p.m. now. There was still half an hour before the freshmen's meeting. Yiqing Luo stretched herself and Chi-Chi jumped off the bed. Its little body trembled as it raised its head and licked its lips. Hungry, speaking of which, I'm a little hungry too. Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand towards Chi-Chi and it leaped up. 1 person and 1 beast went out of the room. Mo Yingyu's room was still tightly shut. Yiqing Luo couldn't sense her breath and didn't know if she was in the room at this time. Shangguan Liuli still hadn't returned. The dormitory was quiet and there was no sign of human activity. Yiqing Luo sighed and opened the door. Just as she was about to go out, a delicate lady rushed towards her and collided with her. Chi-Chi was knocked flying and rolled on Yiqing Luo's bed. It opened its mouth and smelled its master's warm scent. It closed its eyes and fell asleep again. Yiqing Luo didn't notice it and looked at the lady who was knocked down. She was dressed in a long emerald green dress with unique hair tied up and a pretty face. The lady also wore a silk bracelet on her wrist and a pink belt with gold patterns on her waist. She looked extremely youthful and lively. Sorry. The lady quickly bowed down to apologize and squatted on the ground to pick up the scattered luggage. I'm the one who knocked into you, I should be the one apologizing. Yiqing Luo hooked her lips and squatted down to pick up the luggage for the lady. Yiqing Luo's principle was very simple. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. Just like this lady, her attitude was gentle. As the saying goes, don't hit a smiling face. Moreover, this was her roommate, someone who would be living together for a period of time in the future. Yiqing Luo's expression softened a little. After picking up the luggage for the lady, she hugged the package and stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. Sorry to let you see such a joke. This is my room and that room is also occupied. You can choose one of the other 2. Yiqing Luo pointed to the remaining 2 rooms. The lady walked towards the room opposite Yiqing Luo and pushed the door open. Tossing the things onto the bed, a satisfied expression appeared on his face. Phew, the environment is really good. I've finally arrived at the academy. I must have a feast tonight to make up for my exhaustion today. She opened her arms and twirled around. When he turned towards Yiqing Luo, He then realized that there was someone else in the room. His movements immediately stiffened, and he awkwardly scratched his head as he smiled. I am sorry I embarrassed myself again. I'm used to being at home, it's okay. She's cute. Yiqing Luo curled her lips and stretched out her hand. I'm Yiqing Luo, your roommate, let's take care of each other in future. She was indeed very cute. Compared to those who looked gentle on the surface but were actually cruel and merciless. Yiqing Luo preferred someone like Shangguan Lioli or this girl, someone who could see through one's thoughts. At the very least, there was no need to painstakingly plot against each other. My name is Lu Xiaoyu. The woman hurriedly stretched out her hand and shook hands with Yiqing Luo. Finally, there was a normal person. Pack your luggage, I'll go out to find something to eat. Yiqing Luo glanced at the messy things on the bed. Are you hungry? I have a lot of food here. Lu Xiaoyu rummaged through the pile of things on the bed and took out a tightly tied package. She sat on the bed and placed the package on her lap. Her fingers deftly untied the knot. It was a wooden box. After opening it, there were a total of 3 layers inside, and each layer was filled with exquisite pastries. Chapter 161. Lu Xiaoyu nibbled on the pastry and didn't forget to pass the wooden box to Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was indeed hungry and didn't stand on ceremony. She took out a piece and nibbled on it. A strong red bean taste filled her mouth, leaving a fragrant aftertaste in her mouth. Delicious, right? Lu Xiaoyu raised her eyebrows proudly. Our chef is the best chef, I love these pastries the most. Yiqing Luo nodded with a smile, the taste was indeed good. Do you know who our other 2 roommates are? Yiqing Luo finished the pastries and wiped her hands. Emoing you Shangguan Luli? Lu Xiaoyu put the wooden box on the bed and stood up suddenly. Shangguan Luli is also in this dormitory? Yiqing Luo nodded lightly. Then, she was crying outside that someone bullied her. It was you? Lu Xiaoyu's eyes widened in disbelief. Crying? Bullied? Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. Shangguan Luli really didn't care about her reputation at all? Crying outside, was she afraid that others wouldn't know that the dignified Shangguan 5th Missy was bullied on the first day of school? If I'm not wrong, it should be me. Wow. Lu Xiaoyu held Yiqing Luo's hand with both hands, her dark eyes sparkled brightly. Qing Luo, you're amazing. Shangguan Luli is a mystic profound 2nd grade. It is said that she has been allocated to the high profound class. You actually beat her. After shouting excitedly, Lu Xiaoyu's face sank. But, you have to be careful, Shangguan Luli's 3rd brother is in the high profound class and has gathered a group of his own forces in the Heavenly Academy. If you offend Shangguan Luli, her 3rd brother will definitely find trouble with you. My principle is not to cause trouble, but also not to be afraid of trouble. Yiqing Luo smiled and let go of Lu Xiaoyu's hand. Alright, I will settle Shangguan Luli's matter. You go and tidy up the room first, the freshman assembly is about to start. When it was time, the school bell rang. A burst of neat and loud voices spread from the school. Listening to the voices, there were about a dozen people, and they used their profound energy to spread their voices to every corner of the academy. Attention new students. Attention new students. Hurry and report to the academy's plaza. After the time it takes for a stick of incense to burn, all the new students must arrive at the plaza. Otherwise it will be a major demerit. The voice rang out more than 10 times before it stopped. Outside the door, the clamor of students could be heard as they swarmed towards the square. Yiqing Luo remembered the punishment for mistakes she had seen in the handbook. A student only had 3 major demerits and 5 minor demerits. Once a mistake exceeded the record, they would be fired. Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu packed up and arrived at the public square together. The 2 women, one cold and enchanting, the other elegant and charming, immediately attracted the attention of countless people. Although there were quite a number of beauties in the academy, but there weren't many stunning beauties like Yiqing Luo. Moreover, who would complain about having too many beauties? Yiqing Luo found a spot and pulled Lu Xiaoyu to a corner. The academy occupied a vast area with a total of more than 50 halls. There was also a huge square which was even bigger than the assessment square. It was divided into 3 sections: high profound class, intermediate class, and earth profound class. There were all kinds of learning equipment, weapons, and so on. This was the place for students to train and exercise. Their freshman assembly was held in this square. The time it took to burn a stick of incense was soon up. Chapter 162. The freshman assembly was a traditional activity of the Heavenly Academy. It was also an opportunity for the students to get to know each other. Atop the platform of the plaza stood the 3 sovereign teachers who had participated in the ability test. Guiyu stood at the corner of the high platform, squinting his eyes, searching for Yiqing Luo's position in the crowd. When he saw Yiqing Luo, his old eyes widened and waved excitedly at her. As a master on the high platform, every move of his was watched by countless eyes. This action of Guiyu was naturally noticed by many. They couldn't help but look towards the direction where Guiyu waved. Their line of sight was fixed on Yiqing Luo. "Qing Luo, do you feel that? Everyone is looking at you." Lu Xiaoyu had never been in contact with such a big scene. She subconsciously held Yiqing Luo's arm and squeezed closer to her. Yiqing Luo's hand froze. She had never been in such close contact with others. Yiqing Luo was not used to it, but she didn't hate this feeling. "It's not like we are shameful, let them see if they want to see." Lu Xiaoyu was after all thin-skinned, her eyes drooped down and her cheeks were stained with crimson. Yiqing Luo sighed and gently patted Lu Xiaoyu's hand. Raising her bewitching eyes, her expression sunk slightly. Her gaze transformed into a cold and sharp glint that pierced towards everyone who was looking over. The powerful aura made the freshmen shrink their necks. "Cough cough cough, the headmaster is here, the headmaster is here. Freshmen, please be quiet." The master on the stage eased the atmosphere. As soon as the voice fell, a white figure descended from the sky and landed steadily in the middle of the high platform. That was an old man. A set of white robe covered him tightly, revealing only a pair of sharp and astute eyes and white hair scattered on his shoulders. The body under the white robe seemed to have no bones. The white robe was hanging loosely in the air. The old man was holding an agate-colored walking stick in his hand. The agate jade on the top of the walking stick was flickering with electric brilliance, symbolizing his status. The heavenly headmaster. The moment he appeared, all the freshmen in the field immediately shifted their eyes to the high platform. Each of them revealed a look of fear, trembling as they stood straight and held their breath. This was authority. It was a majesty that made one's body react instinctively. The entire freshman area was silent, so quiet that even their own breathing could be heard clearly. Even the old students and the headmasters who were standing outside of the meeting were in awe. The heavenly dean coughed lightly, his voice was old and full of majesty. "I am the dean of this academy, welcome to the Heavenly Academy." His voice paused and he raised the walking stick in his hand. A square-shaped stone slab appeared above his head. "Everyone, take out your wooden tablet and stamp it on the protruding part of the stone slab." A teacher stepped forward and took the stone slab. Then he carried the stone slab and walked down the high platform. Starting from the first freshman, each of them took out the wooden token they received when they registered and imprinted it on the stone slab. Every time a wooden tablet was imprinted, the slate would emit a dazzling light. The students took turns to imprint the wooden token, and the heavenly dean continued on the high platform. "I don't care what your identity is outside the school, or what class you are assigned to. Once you enter the Heavenly Academy, you have to listen to the arrangements of the Heavenly Academy." Chapter 163. The freshmen responded almost subconsciously, "Yes." The headmaster nodded in satisfaction and continued to speak. It was some general principles that everyone understood. After the long-winded speech, the other masters came over to continue. Teacher Wen's representative went up on stage and gave a long series of lectures on how to be a person. On the other hand, Wu Fuzi's speech was crude and easy to understand, but it was also filled with an awe-inspiring boldness. The entire event lasted for about 4 hours. The headmaster then announced the successful end of the event. Just like when he came, he leaped and his white robe flitted across the night sky and disappeared from everyone's sight in the blink of an eye. His speed was so fast that countless new students exclaimed in admiration, and they were filled with reverence for Dean Xian. In the crowd, Yiqing Luo sneered disdainfully. "The headmaster is so awesome. Qing Luo, don't you think so?" Hearing Yiqing Luo's sneer, Lu Xiaoyu retracted her gaze from the direction where the headmaster disappeared. Yiqing Luo lightly hooked her lips and did not answer. She did not have the slightest bit of respect for this so-called heavenly dean. On the contrary, she felt that this headmaster was too good at pretending. Which of the headmasters of the academy was not highly respected and had a scholarly air about them? And when the headmaster appeared, he didn't take the easy way out and chose to descend from the sky, as if he was afraid that others didn't know his profound grade. And when he left, he even showed his hand. No matter how one looked at him, he didn't look like a respectable senior. After the crowd sent off the headmaster, the 3 masters stood on the high platform and said the closing remarks. Accompanied by the applause, the masters repeated, All freshmen, don't forget to report to the square tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for training and class allocation. In the end, the four masters removed the enchantment and dispersed. Yiqing Luo held Lu Xiaoyu and stood still. After a while, Yi Fengyu trotted over with a luggage. The moment he saw Yiqing Luo, a big smile appeared on his handsome face. "Sister, I have already moved into the dormitory and got along well with my roommates." Yiqing Luo took the luggage and touched Yi Fengyu's head. "Don't trust others too easily, no one will treat you unconditionally for no reason, be careful." Hearing this, Yi Fengyu was slightly startled and the smile on his face froze. After a long while, he nodded seriously. "Thank you for reminding me, big sister. I understand." While the siblings were still talking, some of the freshmen who had been standing there for 4 hours felt their legs go numb. Without any strength, they returned to their dormitories to rest. The bustling square gradually quietened down. "Qing Luo, bad news?" Lu Xiaoyu suddenly tugged at Yiqing Luo's sleeve. Up ahead, Shengguan Lioli was pulling a man dressed in the academy's uniform over. Behind the man were 5 or 6 other men. Yiqing Luo's eyes narrowed as she saw the badge on the man's chest, emitting a golden Gao word. "High profound class students. Shengguan Lioli's third brother?" Yiqing Luo's brows rose, but there was no expression on her face. "Sister, what's going on?" Yi Fengyu felt that the atmosphere was strange. That group of people were obviously here for Yiqing Luo. It was only the first day of school, and there were already people who wanted to deal with his sister? Yiqing Luo shook her head lightly and pulled Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu behind her. Coincidentally, Shengguan Lioli and the group of men had already arrived in front of Yiqing Luo. The appearance of the students from the high-level class immediately attracted the attention of the surrounding students. On one side were the senior students dressed in the academy's uniform, and on the other side were the freshmen dressed in ordinary clothes. From the looks of it, it was obvious that there were freshmen who were not afraid of death and went against the students from the high-level class. Chapter 164. Are you the roommate who shares a room with Lu Li? The third young master of the Shengguan family, Shengguan Fengyi, stared at Yiqing Luo and asked with a smile. Although he was in the academy, Shengguan Fengyi had heard of Yiqing Luo's deeds. Originally he thought the rumors were too exaggerated. But after seeing her today he believed the rumors. "Whether we are roommates or not, it's not certain yet," Yiqing Luo replied with a smile. Shengguan Fengyi frowned. He was an old student of the academy and a student of the high profound class. No matter how capable Yiqing Luo was, she should at least give him some face. But Yiqing Luo was so arrogant. No wonder his arrogant sister was so angry that she cried and made a fuss. You want to drive me out of the dormitory?" Shengguan Lu Li's face turned red with anger. She relied on her brother's support and was not afraid of Yiqing Luo. She walked out from behind Shengguan Fengyi and pointed at Yiqing Luo. "The Heavenly Academy has no regulations on changing dormitory, don't even think of driving me out." Yiqing Luo raised her brows. "Did I say I will drive you out of the dormitory?" Shengguan Lioli was speechless. She was embarrassed and angry at the same time. She stomped her feet and tugged at Fengyi's sleeve. "Seventh Miss Yi, since you did not want to drive Lu Li out, why did you speak ill of her in the dormitory and even broke her hand?" Shengguan Fengyi's face sunk slightly. He admitted that a woman like Yiqing Luo was enough to attract his attention. But this did not mean that the dignity of the Shengguan family was allowed to be trampled on by Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo's attitude was obviously not putting the Shengguan family in her eyes. He purposely raised his voice so that the people around him could hear his words, which were very reasonable. This was also to explain to the people around that he was not bullying the freshmen, but to seek justice for his sister. Yiqing Luo chuckled, crossed her arms and looked at him with a faint smile. "Then why don't you ask your precious sister? There are 4 people in the dormitory, why did I specifically bully her?" The surrounding people let out a hiss. They all agreed with Yiqing Luo's words. Many of the people around were young masters and young ladies of influential families. Naturally, they had heard of Shengguan Lioli's arrogance. If it wasn't for the provocation, who would be so bored as to quarrel with their roommates on the first day of school? One had to know that in the Heavenly Academy, once the dormitory was set, there would not be any changes until graduation. No matter what, you're the one who seriously injured Lioli. You should apologize. Shengguan Fengyi's face turned ashen when he heard the agreement from the surrounding students. He took a step back. Those 6 old students behind them surrounded Yiqing Luo and the others. Out of these 6 men, 4 were from the intermediate class, 1 was from the low class and the last one hid his class. He must be a student from the low profound class. This action caused an uproar among the crowd. Are they going to start fighting at the slightest disagreement? One by one they walked further away, afraid that they would be implicated in this disaster. Yi Fengyu's face darkened as he pulled Yi Qingluo's hand and stood in front of her. Sister, they are simply taking advantage of their power to bully others. They want you to apologize and protect the Shangguan family's reputation. Lu Xiaoyu shrunk behind Yi Qingluo, her big bright eyes flashed as she stared at the 6 people surrounding her. Qingluo, do you want to fight? Didn't you read the rules of the Heavenly Academy properly? Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a smile as she stared at Shangguan Fangyi and said word by word, students who engage in private fights in the school will be given a major demerit. Chapter 165. There was a hint of surprise in Shangguan Fangyi's eyes. Yi Qingluo was just a freshman, how would she know the rules of the Heavenly Academy? Speaking of taking advantage of one's power to bully others. Yi Qingluo gave a low laugh and put her arm over his shoulder. In the Heavenly Academy, who can compete with your power? Yi Fengyu was at a loss, not understanding the meaning of his sister's words. Yi Qingluo's lips curled into a smile as her peripheral vision caught a glimpse of a white figure flashing past the crowd. She raised her voice and said, according to 3rd Young Master Shangguan, if 5th Miss Shangguan attacks me, I have to stand still and let her severely injure me? Yi Qingluo's voice paused as she sneered coldly, I really can't agree with the Shangguan family's robber logic. When the crowd heard this, they couldn't help but roar with laughter. In front of everyone, Shangguan Fangyi was humiliated like this. His face turned red and green, and he clenched his fists so tightly that his veins were bulging. The Academy's rules did indeed state that private fights were not allowed within the Academy. The 6 men were only putting on an act. None of them dared to make a move. They had really belittled Yi Qingluo. With just a few words, she had actually dragged the Shangguan clan into this. If the people around them were laughing at him or Shangguan Liuli, it would be fine. Unfortunately, under Yi Qingluo's lead, all of them were looking at the Shangguan family as a joke. Shangguan Fangyi could not take this lying down. Third brother. Look at her. She doesn't even put our Shangguan family in her eyes. Shangguan Liuli pouted and shook Shangguan Fangyi's arm. Ever since she was young, she had always been a flower in a greenhouse. Her family had always held her in the palm of their hands and cared for her as she grew up. He had never suffered any grievances. Even if she caused trouble outside, as long as she mentioned the Shangguan clan, no one would dare to say anything bad about her. This was the first time in Shangguan Liuli's life that she had met someone who wasn't afraid of her Shangguan family. Shut up. Shangguan Fangyi scolded her sternly. This spoiled, willful, big-breasted, brainless sister of his really gave him a headache. At this moment, Shangguan Liuli still had to use the name of the Shangguan clan. He was not afraid of a godlike opponent, but he was afraid of a pig-like teammate. Shangguan Liuli was definitely a pig-like teammate. No matter how much Shangguan Fangyi doted on his sister, for a man, the face of the family was naturally more important than his sister. He raised his hand and slapped Shangguan Liuli's face. Shangguan Liuli was so stunned that she even forgot to cry. She covered half of her face in a daze and looked at Shangguan Fangyi in disbelief. After a long while, tears the size of beans gushed out of her eyes. She pointed at Shangguan Fangyi, her whole body trembling. You hit me. Third brother, I will tell father. After saying that, she covered her face and ran away, crying bitterly. After witnessing the dog-eat-dog drama, Yi Qingluo raised her brows as her lips curled into a mocking smile. Move aside. His gaze slowly swept across the 6 men surrounding him. A chill ran down his spine from the soles of his feet to his head. That gaze seemed to be able to take their lives at any moment. When they heard Yi Qingluo's cold and enchanting voice, their legs subconsciously opened up a path. Yi Qingluo glanced at Shangguan Fangyi with ridicule as she led Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu out of their encirclement and walked towards the direction of the dormitory without turning back. Stop right there. Chapter 166. I'm being overbearing? Yi Qingluo snorted coldly, her charming eyes flashed. Let the students be the judge. When was I being overbearing? She changed the topic, her pink lips raised lightly. Moreover, if it wasn't for the Shangguan 5th Miss who insisted on using the Shangguan family to suppress me, why would I mention them? These words were extremely sarcastic. Who was Yi Qingluo? The young matriarch of Three Springs sect, the future matriarch. Even though the current Three Springs sect was gradually falling behind in the hands of Yi Tianquang. But no one could shake the position of one of the 4 major sects in the Nirvana realm. A mere cultivator's family was nothing in Yiqing Luo's eyes. Shengguan Lioli was simply a clown in front of Yiqing Luo. The onlookers looked at Shengguan Fangi with even more ridicule. Shengguan Fangi's face turned ashen and gloomy. In the Heavenly Academy, everything starts from zero. The affairs of us students have nothing to do with the family. I hope 7th Miss can distinguish this clearly. You'd better say this to the Shangguan 5th Mississippi. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes. She was puzzled. These people with eyes on the top of their heads, did they not understand human language? That's right, in the Heavenly Academy, all students are equal. Suddenly, a vigorous and powerful voice came from the crowd. An old man with his hands behind his back, walked over in a sloppy manner. A head of white hair, messily tied into a ball, a white master's robe hanging loosely on his body askew. He looked like a crazy old man. But in the academy I have the backing of the Yi siblings, I am the force behind them. Who else could this crazy but arrogant old man be other than Old Man Guiyu? Master. Yi Fengyu called out joyfully upon seeing Old Man Guiyu. It was obvious that Old Man Guiyu had met him and accepted him as his disciple after Yi Fengyu entered the academy. Yiqing Luo's brows softened, the smile on the corner of her mouth also added some gentleness. It seemed that she need not worry about Yi Fengyu in the future. With Old Man Guiyu's care, Yi Fengyu would definitely be successful in the Heavenly Academy. Based on Old Man Guiyu's character, Yiqing Luo was not afraid that Yi Fengyu would be bullied by others. Even without her, Old Man Guiyu would strike first. Master Guiyu. Yiqing Luo greeted him. Hearing the way Yiqing Luo addressed him, Old Man Guiyu's face lit up with joy as he strode over. Luo lass, leave this to me. Bring you back to the dormitory first. Master Guiyu? Shangguan Fangi looked at Guiyu with an ugly expression. As the young master of the Shangguan family and having stayed in the Heavenly Academy for several years, he was naturally aware of Old Man Guiyu's identity. If Old Man Guiyu intervened in this matter, he would have to swallow this matter into his stomach. My disciple, the Luo girl that I have my eyes on, you dare to stop me? High-profound class students can do whatever they want in the academy? Old Man Guiyu turned to Shangguan Fangi and his face turned cold. Shangguan Fangi suppressed his anger, lowered his head and replied respectfully, Student doesn't dare. Student just wants to help my sister. Old Man Guiyu squinted his eyes and pointed at Shangguan Fangi arrogantly, not leaving any face for him. The person that I have my eyes on, I know very well what kind of character she has. You have to see if you have the capital to slander my person in front of me. These words caused Shangguan Fangi to be unable to spit out a single word. Chapter 167. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up into a smile as she put the luggage on Yi Fengyu's shoulder. Let's go, help me tidy up the room. But Master Yi Fengyu held the luggage and glanced at the direction of Old Man Guiyu. Master was helping them out of trouble. If they just left like that, wouldn't it be too heartless? Fool. Yiqing Luo knocked on Yi Fengyu's head. What have you been learning in the Yi family for the past 10 years? Why are you so stupid? Yi Fengyu looked at his sister blankly, not understanding the meaning of her words. Master Guiyu, I'll leave this to you. We have training tomorrow morning, we'll go back to the dormitory first. Yiqing Luo shouted at Old Man Guiyu's back. Old Man Guiyu waved his hand and motioned for them to leave. Yiqing Luo pulled Yi Fengyu and Lu Xiaoyu and turned to leave. The surrounding crowd spontaneously made way for them. After a while, the three of them arrived at the female dormitory area. Yi Fengyu was blocked by the guards outside the area. Yiqing Luo pulled over the luggage on his shoulder and patted his head. You just go back to the dormitory, don't bother your master. Master Yi Fengyu looked troubled. Shangguan Fangi didn't speak for a long time, obviously he doesn't want to have any conflict with us, but for the sake of the family's reputation he needs a way out. It's the first day of school, we don't need to make things too big. Since Master Guiyu is here, this way out is under his feet. If we were still here, he would naturally be embarrassed and would continue to pester us. Yiqing Luo sighed softly and explained patiently. The siblings had lost their mother since they were young. Yi Tianquang never cared about them. Although Yi Fengyu studied in an ordinary school, the things taught by those masters were all dead logic. No one had taught him how to conduct himself in the world. Yi Fengyu nodded in realization. So, the power, that sister mentioned, is referring to Master's power? Master Guiyu's status in the school is very high, if you follow him, you will definitely not suffer. If he's willing to teach you, I'm sure you'll have a qualitative leap in your cultivation before long. Yi Qing Luo's hand slid from her brother's head to his ear and pinched it fiercely. As a man, if you want to protect sister, then learn well from teacher Guiyu. Don't always think that sister will help you when you run into trouble. Everything depends on yourself, understand? Yi Fengyu covered his ears in pain and repeatedly responded. Go back and have a good rest. Don't embarrass me in tomorrow's training. Yi Qing Luo released his ear. Seeing that his ears had turned red, she rubbed them, her heart aching for him. The siblings exchanged a few more words of concern before sending Yi Fengyu off. After returning to the dormitory, the entire dormitory was silent. Mo Yue's room was still quiet. It seemed like he didn't see Mo Yu at the freshman competition either. Shangguan Liuli wasn't in the dorm either. Qing Luo Shangguan Luli is famous for being pampered and unruly. Even if we temporarily reconcile tonight, I'm afraid third young master Shangguan will not let you off easily. Lu Xiaoyu followed closely behind Yi Qing Luo into her room, her eyes filled with worry. It's alright, don't worry. Yi Qing Luo placed her luggage on the bed and began to pack. In the luggage were some of Yi Qing Luo's daily necessities and 2 clean and thin bedding. Chapter 168. With Shangguan Fangyi's status and talent, it was destined that he would not be a nobody in the Heavenly Academy. What's more, to be able to grow up in the Shangguan family and even successfully enter the Heavenly Academy, one would naturally have a lot of schemes. Shangguan Fangyi had been teaching in the Heavenly Academy for at least 5 years. In the academy, he had naturally formed a wave of forces that belonged to him. If he were to secretly take action on Yi Qing Luo, there was no way to defend against it. Lu Xiaoyu's face was filled with worry, but when she saw Yi Qing Luo's expressionless face, calmly laying out the bedsheets, her heart became more anxious. Qing Luo? If he wants to make a move on me secretly, there's no use worrying about it. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as she smiled indifferently. Go to sleep, tomorrow morning we have to go to the public square for training. Lu Xiaoyu still wanted to say something, but Yi Qing Luo continued. If you don't take a good rest, the assessment's overall score will be dragged down during training. If you are allocated to the low profound class, it will be very troublesome if you want to be promoted. Well, I won't. In short, it's better to be safe than sorry. If there's anything you need help with, feel free to look for me. I'm not afraid of offending them. Lu Xiaoyu patted Yi Qing Luo's shoulder with a firm gaze. Yi Qing Luo's smile gradually deepened. It felt great to be able to make good friends on the first day of school. Sending Lu Xiaoyu back to her room with her eyes, Yi Qing Luo closed the door and fell onto the bed. Closing his eyes, he prepared to extract his divine sense and enter the Azure Dew bracelet to cultivate his profound energy. Suddenly, she remembered something and sat up abruptly. Chi-Chi? No wonder he felt like something was missing. Yi Qing Luo's consciousness probed into the beast pet space, but she didn't find Chi-Chi. Before the freshman competition, Chi-Chi was resting with her in the room. When she bumped into Lu Xiaoyu, Chi-Chi was still on her shoulder. She immediately got off the bed and called out Chi-Chi's name in her heart. But there was no response at all. Damn it. Yi Qing Luo clenched her fists tightly as her brows creased tightly. His heart was filled with guilt towards Chi-Chi. She did not even know when Chi-Chi had left her shoulder. She could not even find Chi-Chi now. Ever since she contracted Mu Chi-Chi, she did not care much about Mu Chi-Chi. Yi Qing Luo gathered her long skirt and pushed open the tightly shut window, trying to sneak around the academy to find out where Chi-Chi was. There were many experts in the Heavenly Academy, and she was worried that Chi-Chi would be mistaken as an ordinary pet beast by other students or teachers and captured. As soon as she opened the window, a gust of cold wind blew into her face, causing her black hair to scatter. Yi Qing Luo turned her head and squinted her eyes as her hair fell on her eyelashes. Suddenly her body stiffened. Her slender fingers brushed aside her hair, which had been messed up by the wind, and she stared at the pitch-black night sky. The wind brought a familiar scent of sandalwood. As it seeped into her nose, her restless heart inexplicably calmed down. It's him, Mo Xian arrived. Just as this thought flashed through his mind, a strong and powerful arm wrapped around his waist. Her back was pressed against a hot, broad chest. The man's chin rested on her shoulder. His mellow and mesmerizing voice sounded beside her ear. Luo, do you want to climb the window? His fresh and elegant sandalwood scent enveloped her completely. The man's warmth also covered her whole body. And she did not resist such an intimate action. There was no rejection at all. This man was really amazing. Chapter 169. What are you doing here? Yi Qing Luo's fingers curled into a wisp of his black hair, twining around her fingers. Diamo Xian's thin lips hooked up slightly, whispering, "I missed you, so I came to see you." Sneaking into the Heavenly Academy in the middle of the night and touching the female dormitory, if the guards saw you, you will be regarded as a rapist. Yiqing Luo tugged at his long hair, raised her head and looked at him playfully. But when she raised her head, she was met with a pair of peach blossom eyes. When they looked at each other, there seemed to be an electric current. Her body and mind suddenly went numb, her heart was beating wildly. Diamo Xian's brows were full of laziness, his 5 fingers lightly lifted her chin. "Plucking is a flower, I wonder if Luo is willing to let me pluck you?" Yiqing Luo's cheeks flushed red. These words, why did it sound like he was expressing his feelings to her? "Don't speak, it means you agree." Diamo Xian's lips hooked up, the hand on her chin suddenly buckled, her body, along with the strength of the man's fingertips, moved closer to the man. Immediately that peerless face enlarged in her pupils. Warm lips pasted on her lips. Originally it was just a simple touch, Yiqing Luo reacted and subconsciously stepped back. But the man's arm increased the strength. The big palm fell on the back of her head, forcefully deepening the kiss. He invaded her territory, occupying all her sweetness. Yiqing Luo's breathing was rapid, her mind was blank, the strength of her body seemed to be drained by Diamo Xian. Her whole body was numb, she had no consciousness to resist. Being hugged by him, being touched by him, she was used to it, it was nothing. But why was it that even kisses she was used to it? It shouldn't be towards Diamo Xian. This thought made Yiqing Luo quiver, the whole person immediately regained her senses. "Wu, Wu." Yiqing Luo's charming eyes revealed anger, raised her fist, struggling to pound on Diamo Xian's chest. But Diamo Xian seemed to deliberately go against her, the more she struggled, the fiercer he kissed, as if he wanted to kiss away all her reason and swallow her into his stomach. It was until the man's jet-black eyes turned deep black before he released Yiqing Luo's lips. Facing Yiqing Luo's angry and embarrassed expression, Diamo Xian was like a cat that had stolen a fish, his lips curled into a satisfied smile. "Looks like I picked the right flower." Diamo Xian gave a low laugh as his fingers caressed his lips, seemingly wanting to continue. "The taste is not bad." His actions, his words, made Yiqing Luo feel even more ashamed and indignant. She raised her arm and was about to slap him. Her speed was fast, but Diamo Xian's speed was even faster. Just as he made his move, he felt a grip on his wrist. The man's large palm held her tightly, and then pulled her into his embrace. Yiqing Luo's face bumped into Diamo Xian's chest. The fresh and elegant smell of sandalwood was getting thicker, as though it was going to make Yiqing Luo faint. "Emperor. Mystic." Just as Yiqing Luo was about to lash out at Diamo Xian, he immediately changed the topic. "Luo, I'm here to return your things." "You." Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth in anger. Damn it. This man was definitely her nemesis, wasn't he? Once she met him, she would definitely be at a disadvantage. He didn't play the cards according to common sense. Sure enough, it was a world where the bigger fist was the hard truth. She couldn't beat Diamo Xian in a fight, couldn't scold Diamo Xian, even her sarcastic remarks could be ignored by Diamo Xian. Chapter 170. Ow ow ow, the shrill cry of a pet beast came from behind him. This sound made Yiqing Luo's heart tremble. She didn't have the mood to criticize Diamo Xian. Yiqing Luo used both her hands and feet to push Diamo Xian away. The moment she turned around, she saw a white fluffy ball standing behind her. Snow-white fur without any impurities. A pair of dark eyes were glowing with a watery luster, as if it was acting coquettishly. Wasn't it the missing Chi-Chi? Yiqing Luo opened her arms to it, her eyes were filled with joy. Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi's tiger eyes were sparkling, its little legs kicked and scuttled into Yiqing Luo's arms. Yiqing Luo picked it up and rubbed her little face on its furry head as her lips curled into an elegant arc. Diamo Xian leaned on one side, his hands crossed over his chest. The cold moonlight spilled in from the window, plated that handsome face with a layer of dazzling silver edge. Diamo Xian's pair of sparkling crystal peach blossom eyes squinted slightly, outlining a long and narrow demonic arc. His thin lips curled up slightly, his eyes locked deeply on Yiqing Luo. He smiled at Chi-Chi, smiling till his eyes were curved. That face that usually looked cold and arrogant and glamorous, was actually exceptionally gentle. His eyes couldn't help but become gentle. A pair of warm jade eyes gazed at Yiqing Luo. Outside the window, Wind, who was hiding in the dark, almost fell down from the branch when he saw this scene. Was this still the cold and ruthless overlord in his heart? Diamo Xian smiled faintly. He was looking at Yiqing Luo tenderly, when he saw Yiqing Luo's pink lips, imprinted on Chi-Chi's forehead. His brows suddenly trembled. Diamo Xian strode forward, stretched out his hand and pulled Chi-Chi out from Yiqing Luo's arms, holding its neck. His expression was ugly. Are you male or female? Yiqing Luo was just about to scold him for being crazy again, when she heard Diamo Xian's question. The corners of her mouth twitched. Damn, what does male or female have to do with you? Yiqing Luo stretched out her hand to snatch. Diamo Xian turned around and she pounced on empty air. The man lifted Chi-Chi and locked eyes with it. At this moment, that jet-black peach blossom eyes, where was there any glimmer when he looked at Yiqing Luo earlier? Chi-Chi's hair stood up and under Diamo Xian's threatening glare, it tucked its tail between its legs and whimpered twice. Speak. Chi-Chi wagged her tail. Awu, it was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the white tiger. Of course it was a male tiger. Male? Diamo Xian's eyes narrowed as an eerie chill arose. Rescind the contract. Diamo Xian, you're sick. Yiqing Luo snappily hooked onto Diamo Xian's waist and snatched Chi-Chi back with one hand. Whether my companion is male or female has nothing to do with you. After Chi-Chi was snatched into her hands, Yiqing Luo was about to let go of Diamo Xian when the man suddenly tightened his arms and pulled her into his embrace. A Luo threw himself at you and you still want to run? Diamo Xian raised his brows slightly, his slender fingers easily hooked onto Chi-Chi from Yiqing Luo's hand. With a casual toss, Chi-Chi tumbled a few rounds in the air and fell onto the bed. The small body immediately burrowed into the mattress, only revealing a small tail. A sacred beast was actually frightened by Diamo Xian and became so obedient. Diamo Xian was really deserving of the Nirvana legend. Yiqing Luo's mouth couldn't help twitching. Are you done? Chapter 171. Yiqing Luo slapped the back of his hand fiercely. Why did you bring my Chi-Chi out? Diamo Xian didn't evade and let Yiqing Luo slap him. That slap was very forceful. Even Chi-Chi, who was curled up in the quilt, peeked out its little head and looked at them with twinkling eyes. However, the man's expression didn't change. Instead, he bent down and his thin lips were almost on Yiqing Luo's neck. His hot breath sprayed on her skin bit by bit. I picked it up casually, it has your scent on it. Picked up? Was her Chi-Chi so easy to pick up? Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and looked at Chi-Chi. You were really picked up by him? Chi-Chi blinked and nodded its head. Ah, Luo doesn't believe me? Diamo Xian turned her face and made her look at him. The man's face was full of resentment as he cupped Yiqing Luo's face with both hands. Ah, Luo, do you think that I have ulterior motives towards this male tiger? Yiqing Luo's eyes twitched. Was this really the legendary overlord? Moreover, he was too obsessed with Chi-Chi's gender? You speak as if your 9-tailed fox is not a female. Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes and pulled away the man's hand that was caressing her face. Nope. Then that's it, your fox is a female. You. Yiqing Luo's words stopped abruptly as her eyes widened. What the hell? Such a flirtatious 9-tailed fox, was it not a female? In her mind, a picture suddenly came up. A seductive man dressed in a white velvet robe with coquettish eyes winking at Diamo, simply too beautiful. So beautiful that Yiqing Luo couldn't bear to think about it anymore. Your taste is quite heavy. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched as she laughed dryly. All right, since you have sent Chi-Chi back, go do whatever you need to do, I need to rest. After Diamo Xian's teasing, Yiqing Luo believed his words. After all, Chi-Chi would not lie to her. She yawned and walked towards the bed. Just as he took a step forward, his waist suddenly tightened, and his body suddenly became light. When she came back to her senses, she was already half in the man's arms and lying on the bed. The man's black hair spilled over the bed like clouds and smoke. His purple robe was like a blossoming mandala, adding a touch of demonic charm to his appearance. He turned sideways with one hand under Yiqing Luo's head and the other around her waist. Yiqing Luo's entire face was buried in his chest. His sandalwood scent filled his nostrils. You, go to sleep. Diamo Xian's thin lips curled into a slight arc as he shut his eyes tightly. I'm sleepy too. Go to sleep if you're tired. What are you trying to do by snatching my bed? Yiqing Luo roared in her heart. Her hands and feet struggled, trying to push the man away. But Diamo Xian's body was like a huge lock, trapping her, and she was unable to move at all. His arms moved up slightly and gently covered the back of her head. His magnetic low husky voice was like a lullaby in her ears. Be good, don't make a fuss, go to sleep. His big palm through the black hair exuded a scorching heat. It was warm and made her feel at ease. This was a feeling that Yiqing Luo had never felt since her past life. While she was in a daze, the shallow breathing sound in her ears gradually calmed down. Had he fallen asleep? Yiqing Luo moved a little and sensed no other changes in Diamo Xian's breath. He might really be sleepy. Yiqing Luo's body stiffened and no longer moved. Perhaps this embrace was too warm and made her feel at ease. Or perhaps Yiqing Luo was also sleepy. After a while she fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 172. This time Yiqing Luo slept exceptionally sweetly. When she was in the hidden family, Yiqing Luo had developed the habit of being vigilant at all times. Even in her sleep, the slightest sound could wake her up. In particular, her strong perception was too sharp. She had never tasted the feeling of sleeping soundly. This time Yiqing Luo actually woke up after the academy's bell rang several times, until Lu Xiaoyu came in to urge her to get up. She then slowly opened her eyes. Diamo Xian was long gone. Her hand touched the side of her body, it was icy cold. He should have left for a period of time. Yiqing Luo's eyes were filled with astonishment as she sat on the bed in a daze. She had never slept so comfortably. She didn't even know when Diamo Xian left. Slept until. She didn't even know when Lu Xiaoyu entered her room. Her slender white palm, inch by inch, moved to her heart, her 5 fingers clutching the collar of her chest tightly. What drug did Diamo Xian give her? It actually made her change her habits for many years unknowingly. He was really her nemesis. The academy's bell rang again. This was the last reminder bell for the gathering in the square. Yiqing Luo immediately got up, dressed herself up with the fastest speed, changed into a set of light clothes, and gathered with Lu Xiaoyu at the square. This time was neither too early nor too late. The square was also considered quiet. Other than this batch of freshmen, there was a batch of students in the high profound class area, and a few students in the intermediate profound class area, undergoing morning training. In front of the freshmen, there were already 2 training instructors dressed in tight martial uniforms, with a big drill word printed on their backs. Their faces were cold, expressionless, and full of anger and majesty. Just by standing there, their imposing manner had already suppressed this group of freshmen. 400 to 500 people lined up under the call of the 2 training instructors. Dear freshmen, we are the instructors in charge of the freshmen's morning training. The 2 instructors called out. The instructor on the left had a cold face, his eyes were cold. My surname is He. Although the instructor on the right also had a majestic aura, the corner of his mouth hooked up with a slight smile, coupled with the contrast of instructor He, it seemed easier to get along. My surname is Chu, just call me Instructor Chu. Hello, Instructor He, Instructor Chu. The freshmen immediately stood up straight and shouted in unison. When training ends, it will be time for you to be divided into classes. This time's training will also be integrated into the overall results of your assessment. The final result will be the standard for your class placement. Instructor Chu smiled and explained today's training. Each of you has a piece of paper in your hands. After you are divided into classes, you can take it to the Faculty Affairs office to collect your uniform. From tomorrow onwards, you have to wear the academy uniform when you come to the plaza for training. Tomorrow? Do you still have to wake up so early tomorrow? An extremely low voice complained. I'd rather sleep in the dormitory than listen to your nagging. Although his voice was low, it could still be heard clearly in such a silent situation. All the students turned their gazes towards the direction of the grumbling. Although these words were what they were thinking. But, roasting in front of the instructor, did he not want to stay in the academy anymore? Everyone wanted to see who this incredibly stupid person was. Students in the 5th row of the 2nd row, step out. Instructor He's voice was cold as he shouted. But after a long time no one stepped out. On the contrary, the students who were called out were still looking left and right, as if trying to find out who the instructor was calling. She only reacted when the person beside her pushed her. Me? What right do you have to ask me to step out? She suddenly blushed and bit her red lips. Chapter 173. Based on what? Instructor Ho's eyes were cold and his face showed a sarcastic smile. He walked straight to Shangguan Lioli, stretched out his hand and easily lifted her up. How dare you touch me? I am the 5th Missy of the Shangguan family. Shangguan Lioli was so angry that her face turned red and struggled to slap the instructor's hand. Instructor Ho's hand was as tough as a stone, no matter how Shangguan Liuli pulled, it didn't budge at all. On the other hand, her exquisite hair and her gorgeous robe were already in a mess due to the struggle. When Instructor Ho threw her to the ground, Shangguan Liuli looked like a crazy woman, her image was ruined. Before Shangguan Liuli could cry out, Instructor Ho had already walked in front of her and bent down slightly. His cold voice was extremely dignified. Based on the fact that I am your instructor, based on the fact that you have entered the Heavenly Academy, if you don't want to learn, then get lost. Wah! A sharp cry burst out from Shangguan Liuli's mouth. She covered her face, lying on the ground and crying bitterly. Her mouth kept on cursing. Yiqing Luo heard her own name and suddenly felt speechless. Damn, she was shot even though she was lying down. This girl's princess syndrome was probably in the late stage. Shut up! Instructor Ho shouted impatiently. Shangguan Liuli had never been shouted at like this before. When she was easily lifted up by Instructor Ho, she had no strength to resist and had an instinctive sense of fear towards Instructor Ho. At this time, when she heard Instructor Ho's stern shout, her mouth immediately flattened and sobbed a few times, not daring to make a sound, and looked at Instructor Ho timidly. Either return to the team, or get lost now. Shangguan Liuli bit her red lips, wiped her tears and moved back to the team. Why did everyone have to bully her? She was bullied by Yiqing Luo yesterday and didn't even return to the dormitory. She could only stay outside with Shangguan Fangi for a night. Shangguan Fangi had slapped her and was worried that she would really complain to the Shangguan family head, so he had no choice but to accompany her. Now Shangguan Liuli was so sleepy that she was dozing off and was bullied by the instructor. She wanted to throw a tantrum and go back to complain to her father. But, no matter how stupid Shangguan Liuli was, she was still very clear about the internal strife in her family. Her profound heart, jade and talent were the reasons why she had been doted on since she was young. After entering the Heavenly Academy, her status in the Shangguan family would rise by a few levels. Now he's being chased back to the Shangguan family by the instructor? Then her many years of hard work would all be wasted. They would also become the laughing stock of the Shangguan family. Staying in the Heavenly Academy with third brother's help, it would only be a matter of minutes to take revenge. Instructor Ho sneered when he saw her lowering her head obediently. His gaze swept across the freshmen and said in a cold tone, "The Heavenly Academy is not short of students with outstanding qualifications, nor students with great power and influence. Don't even think of using the same tricks you used outside in the academy. The reason why the Heavenly Academy is hailed as the best academy is because of the Heavenly Academy's strength." The freshmen nodded in agreement. With an example of killing the chicken to warn the monkeys, these freshmen who were originally suppressed by Instructor Ho's imposing manner and did not dare to speak, even their breathing became more cautious. Well, what should be said has been said by Instructor Ho. Although the words are not pleasant to hear, but every sentence is from the bottom of his heart. If the freshmen want to study in the Heavenly Academy for a long time, then remember what Instructor Ho said. Instructor Chu's mouth hooked up into a faint smile, his cold and stiff face became slightly gentle. Chapter 174. The purpose of your coming to the Heavenly Academy, is it to show off to others that you are able to get into the Heavenly Academy, or is it to become stronger, to win glory for your family, for the mainland? This question was extremely incisive. It could be said that more than 70% of the freshmen present were trying their best to get into the Heavenly Academy because of its reputation. To be able to enter the Heavenly Academy, even if it was in the low class, was a symbol of status. In the future, when you walk outside the academy and show off your identity as a student of the Heavenly Academy, you would be admired by everyone. This was the power of the Heavenly Academy's reputation. Just like how everyone's expression changed when they heard the words Overlord, it was the same logic. Therefore, when Instructor Chu asked the question, none of the freshmen answered. Yiqing Luo didn't speak either. She still understood the principle of shooting the bird that sticks out. Before she had enough strength, it was better to keep a low profile. On the day of the ability assessment, she had already been in the limelight with DMO Xian's escort. As the saying goes, there's always someone better than you out there. Her high profile would only invite some unnecessary trouble. I think you already have the answer in your heart, Instructor Chu said indifferently after a long silence. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and his lips curled up into a mocking smile. Whether it's to show off to others or to raise my profound rank, or to make myself stronger, there's only one starting point, is to learn. If you come to the Heavenly Academy and learn nothing, will others laugh at you for being mediocre, or will they laugh at the Heavenly Academy for not knowing how to teach? Sounds of people sucking in cold breaths could be heard in the square. Instructor Chu's words woke everyone up from their dreams. Yiqing Luo's lips raised slightly. She was very interested in the teaching methods of these two instructors. These two were definitely brothers who had been partners for many years. One was cold and domineering, the other convinced with reason. With such a combination, there were very few freshmen who could escape from their control. These students only thought that once they were admitted into the Heavenly Academy, it would represent infinite glory and a symbol of status. But they had never thought that after entering the Heavenly Academy, if they stagnated and were unable to advance to the profound grade. In the eyes of the world, it would never be said that the Heavenly Academy with the best school did not know how to teach. It would only say, in the Heavenly Academy, which was full of talents, their aptitude seemed extremely mediocre. It was such a good starting point for them to speed up their growth, but there were no results. It was simply a waste. At that time, all the brilliance would turn into a shadow and cover all the light. Do you want to become stronger? The freshmen were still in a state of shock when they suddenly heard Instructor Chu's explosive roar and were shocked. Yes, he replied in a scattered manner. Louder. Yes. Louder. Yes. Do you want to let the light of being admitted into the Heavenly Academy shine brighter? Yes. Good. Now run 5 laps around the square. All right. After hundreds of people answered in unison, they finally realized what was going on. 5 laps. Are you kidding me? The plaza was so huge that one could not see the end of it at a glance. Even if they were on the inside, circling 1 round would be fatal, not to mention 5 rounds. First row, start running. Second row, follow up. Instructor Chu did not seem to notice the resentment in the freshman's eyes and directly shouted out the slogan. 5 laps is a bit too much, instructor. Can you just run 1 lap? Just 1 lap. This early in the morning, after running 1 lap, I won't have the energy to do anything for the rest of the day. Instructor, you must be joking with us, right? Chapter 175. Just as the crowd were whining and complaining incessantly, Yiqing Luo had already taken the lead and started running. She estimated that running 1 round in the inner line of the square was about 2 kilometers and 5 rounds would be 10 kilometers. For ordinary people, no one could run all the way. But these things in her previous life, when Yiqing Luo was trained as the head of the hidden family, not to mention 10 kilometers, even if it was 20 kilometers, she had to run non-stop. This could train a person's physical strength, endurance and mental power. A lot of training was based on running. Hundreds of freshmen saw Yiqing Luo spontaneously running and all of their faces turned ugly. If the students collectively protested, the instructors might reduce the number of laps because no one listened to the command. They didn't expect Yiqing Luo to take the initiative to run. Then Lu Xiaoyu also followed. The 2 instructors' sight fell on Yiqing Luo. They had been in the academy for such a long time and had always been the freshman instructors, so naturally they had a set of ability to judge people. From the moment Yiqing Luo stood among the freshmen, the 2 of them had already noticed this girl. From the beginning to the end, there was no hint of impatience on her face. Or perhaps no expression. Unlike the other freshmen, although they didn't say anything, but there was some dissatisfaction towards the instructors on the surface. Looking at her proper running posture, uniform footsteps and breathing, the admiration in the 2 instructors' eyes was even more obvious. Shengguan Luli saw all these, especially when she saw the instructors actually admired Yiqing Luo. A sense of imbalance surged in her heart. She clenched her fists and gritted her teeth. Wasn't it just running? Who didn't know how to do it? She had made the instructors unhappy earlier, now she would pull the instructor's impression of her back. Shengguan Luli took a deep breath and with a burst of strength, she quickly rushed over. In a short while, she had already reached the front of Yiqing Luo. When she overtook Yiqing Luo, she didn't forget to throw her a provocative look and immediately left Yiqing Luo far behind. Qing Luo, do you want to chase after her? Lu Xiaoyu followed beside Yiqing Luo, maintaining the same speed as her. Looking at Shengguan Luli's arrogant look, she revealed a look of disdain. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Once you start running, you can't stop after 5 laps. Let her show off now, later on she will suffer. I suddenly feel like you're very black-bellied. Lu Xiaoyu rolled her eyes and instantly understood the meaning of Yiqing Luo's words. Then wouldn't I be in trouble? 5 laps. It would take my life. Run slowly. The instructor only said 5 laps and didn't set a time limit. Yiqing Luo glanced at Lu Xiaoyu. She believed that Lu Xiaoyu definitely had the ability to finish the 5 laps with her. Lu Xiaoyu's running posture was as standard as hers, and she adjusted her breathing very well. She also knew how to use profound chi to relieve the fatigue in her legs. Although it would be very difficult for them to complete 5 laps, they would definitely be able to complete it. That's right. Let's run first. When those people start running and we're done, we can watch them. Lu Xiaoyu nodded with a smile. Then he reached out to touch his stomach. If I had known this would happen, I would have secretly brought some pastries and hid them in my clothes. If I had something to eat, I would definitely be more energetic now. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laugh. 1 ran away, 2 ran away, 3 ran away. Following that, several freshmen lined up one by one and started running. After running 1 lap, Shengguan Luli, who initially left Yiqing Luo half a lap behind, obviously couldn't hold on any longer. She ran with all her might, and towards the end, her legs were getting more and more tired. Even lifting up was extremely strenuous. But unfortunately she couldn't stop. There were too many pairs of eyes staring at her. If she stopped now, others might ridicule her. Chapter 176. Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change, her face wasn't red and she wasn't out of breath. He easily overtook Shengguan Lioli, who was already exhausted. When a gust of fragrant wind passed by, Shengguan Lioli panted heavily, her face flushed and stared at Yiqing Luo. She couldn't swallow the anger in her heart and couldn't spit it out, it was suffocating in her chest. She wanted to speed up and overtake Yiqing Luo again to teach her a lesson. But Shengguan Lioli felt as if there was 1,000 catty boulder pressing on her legs, she couldn't lift it at all. In particular, Shengguan Lioli was still wearing the same dress when she came to the school yesterday, gorgeous and cumbersome. After running 1 round, she was drenched in sweat, her messy hair stuck to her face and neck, and her dress was too heavy. Shengguan Lioli took a deep breath and gritted her teeth, her unyielding spirit was aroused by Yiqing Luo. Shengguan Lioli clenched her fist and was about to take a step to chase after Yiqing Luo. But just as she tried to lift her foot, a force suddenly hit her from behind. Shengguan Lioli immediately saw stars and staggered and fell to the ground. Lu Xiaoyu's charming laughter came into her ears. "Oh, Shengguan student, I'm so sorry, I was too tired and didn't notice you stopped. Do you want me to help you up?" A slender white hand stretched out in front of her. "You obviously did it on purpose." Shengguan Lioli was furious. "Pa!" She shook off Lu Xiaoyu's hand. "You are in cahoots with her, you are in cahoots to bully me." I really didn't mean it." Lu Xiaoyu covered the back of her hand, which was red from the slap, and looked at the instructor with a wronged look. Instructor Ho's face was sullen, the iron rod in his hand stabbed the ground fiercely. "Continue to run. Who dares to stop before 5 laps are completed? Report to the low profound class now." Lu Xiaoyu looked frightened, her eyes were filled with grievance as she looked at Shengguan Lioli, bit her lips and turned to chase after Yiqing Luo. Shengguan Lioli lay on the ground and cried out loud. Beside her, the freshmen ran past her one by one. Instructor Ho narrowed his eyes and shouted coldly, "That new student, if you don't want to run, then get out here. Don't block the other student's path." When the freshmen heard this, they could not help but burst into laughter. They were exhausted from all the running, and having a good show to watch could at least refresh their spirits. "Run. Not running?" Shengguan Lioli lay on the ground, feeling conflicted. She didn't have the strength to run, and she didn't have the means to get first place and win back the instructor's impression. If she didn't run, she would be assigned to the low profound class. At that time, wouldn't those people at home who wanted to see her make a fool of herself be able to make a fuss about it? Before entering the Heavenly Academy, she had already vowed in front of her father that she would definitely enter the high profound class together with her third brother. Thinking about how she would not be loved by her family in the future, Shengguan Lioli was filled with unwillingness. Biting her lower lip, she stood up and continued running. Yiqing Luo deliberately jogged slowly, waiting for Lu Xiaoyu to catch up with her. There was no trace of grievance on Lu Xiaoyu's face at this time. She snorted, "I can't stand people who are so arrogant without strength. You still want me to be careful? Aren't you afraid that she will bear a grudge against you for targeting her so openly?" "What am I afraid of? I, Lu Xiaoyu, am not afraid of anything other than having nothing to eat." Lu Xiaoyu proudly raised her head, revealing a smug smile. Yiqing Luo's lips curled up, her heart warmed. Chapter 177. By the second lap, quite a number of people had chosen to give up and fell to the ground, gasping for air. There were still more than 300 people persisting in the inner circle of the square. The 2 leaders in front were still expressionless. Those 300 students who were still persisting stared at Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu with bloodshot eyes. They were roaring in their hearts. Where did these two perverts come from? Couldn't they just happily be freshmen together? If it wasn't for the sweat on their faces and soaked clothes, everyone would have suspected that they were cheating. They were not even panting after running for so long. By the third lap, more than half of the students had left. There were more than 100 people left in the field. Lu Xiaoyu was also left behind, her face was slightly flushed and she was panting. Obviously, her physical strength could no longer support her to move forward at a constant speed. Don't worry about me, you run first, I will stop myself when I can't do it anymore. Lu Xiaoyu's breathing was extremely heavy, her legs had already slowed down as she spoke. Yiqing Luo nodded slightly, quickly adjusted her breathing and began to speed up. When everyone saw Yiqing Luo speeding up, they all felt like dying. Damn. She was definitely a pervert. Was she a horse in her past life? Lu Xiaoyu's eyes revealed a strange look as she stared at Yiqing Luo's back in a daze. Could it be that Yiqing Luo had not used her full strength? Was it to match her speed? The corners of Lu Xiaoyu's mouth curled up a little, and her bright eyes were also tinged with a smile. It seemed that this trip to the Heavenly Academy was not in vain. By the fourth lap, there were only 20 to 30 people left in the field. There were quite a number of people lying on the ground, half dead and unable to get up. The instructors did not have the slightest bit of pity, they called 2 old students from the low class and carried them down. Yiqing Luo did not care how many students were following behind her, she just constantly adjusted her breathing. Her face was not red and she was not out of breath, it was just an illusion to others. In fact, by the fourth lap, Yiqing Luo's breathing had already become somewhat heavy. His legs also gradually became heavier, and he was no longer as nimble as before. However, there was no such word as give up in Yiqing Luo's dictionary. Since she had chosen to run, she would definitely finish the whole course. Yiqing Luo clenched her teeth and persevered as she continued forward. It was until the 5th round was completed when Yiqing Luo slowly came to a stop. The 2 instructors stood at the finish line. Their cold faces curled into an extremely shallow arc. Congratulations, you're great. This was the first person to complete 5 laps of the square since the start of the lesson. The students of low, intermediate and high profound classes who were watching from the sidelines were all amazed. One had to know. These 2 instructors had never praised anyone since they became instructors. One by one, they craned their necks to see who this freshman who had run 5 laps and was praised by the 2 cold-faced instructors was. Yiqing Luo was neither arrogant nor rash as she gave a decent smile. Thank you for the instructor's recognition. After saying that, she nodded politely and walked to the side of the square. She began to stretch her limbs and sat down to stretch and relax her muscles. The instructor's eyes were filled with admiration. This girl had quite a lot of common sense. At this time, the 30 people in the field could not hold on any longer on the 4th lap. Some fainted and some retreated in defeat. Sparsely, there were only 3 people left, still staggering as they ran. One of them was Lu Xiaoyu. She was already drenched in sweat, her footsteps were heavy and her whole body was swaying. But she insisted on running. Chapter 178. These 3 people must be crazy. Do they really want to put their lives on the line? They don't want their lives, but we do. My overall score in the ability assessment is not bad. Even if I fail this run, I can at least get into the intermediate class. Even if I enter the high profound class, I still need to be alive. The freshmen who had fallen on the ground were all complaining. Humans were like this. Once they couldn't persevere, they would continue to say sour words, believing that their persistence was simply stupid. To put it bluntly, it was just an excuse for their cowardice. It was just to make him feel more at ease when he was a coward. Lu Xiaoyu's body was already on the verge of collapsing. She was at the front, her legs were like lead weights, step by step forward. Fortunately, Yiqing Luo reminded them that they were dressed in black today. Even if they were sweating profusely, it wouldn't reveal the color of their inner clothes. But the other female students were miserable. She was drenched in sweat, and her thin muslin clothes clung to her curvaceous figure. Of course, everyone was tired at this time and didn't have the mood to care about these. Xiaoyu, come on, just a few more steps and we'll be there. Yiqing Luo stopped her leg stretching action and jogged slowly towards the square. Although she was still a little tired after stretching her muscles, but it wasn't as tiring as before after running 5 laps. She came to Lu Xiaoyu's side and smiled slightly. If you successfully run 5 laps, I'll treat you to roast chicken in the cafeteria tonight. Perhaps it was the word roast chicken that made Lu Xiaoyu's eyes lit up. Or perhaps it was because Yiqing Luo ran to her side after running 5 laps and continued to accompany her for another half lap. Lu Xiaoyu's exhausted and sweaty face also showed a trace of determination. One cheered in her ear, the other ran with all her might. Finally they reached the end of the 5th lap at the same time. Lu Xiaoyu couldn't even stand steadily. Yiqing Luo supported her to stand for about half an instance's time before she let go of Lu Xiaoyu and let her do the muscle-stretching action. The second one. The second freshman to successfully run 5 laps. This batch of freshmen was really eye-catching. The 2 instructors' hearts swelled up and the students' hearts were boiling. Immediately after, thunderous applause resounded throughout the square. These 2 new students were absolutely worthy of this applause. Lying on the ground, Shangguan Liuli's eyes were filled with ruthless hatred as she stood among the freshmen who were unable to move. She was surrounded by a few of her good friends from outside the academy. They were all exhausted, but they still had to serve Shangguan Liuli. 5th Miss, don't be angry. These 2 people are not to be trifled with. I will never swallow this down. Shangguan Liuli's eyes were vicious, like a sharp knife, cutting Yiqing Luo. Why was it that Yiqing Luo could complete 5 laps but she couldn't? If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo's provocation, forcing her to use all her strength first, she would definitely be able to run 5 laps. Now, the glory of these applause also belonged to her. The more he thought about it, the darker the darkness in his heart grew. My roast chicken. Roast chicken still counts. Lu Xiaoyu rested for a while and walked towards Yiqing Luo. As expected of a foodie, the first thing he asked was food. Yiqing Luo smiled. Of course, tonight please. I suddenly feel that all the hard work today is worth it. Lu Xiaoyu made a greedy look and licked her lips. Chapter 179. There was a silence in the square. Just a little bit more and the 2 of them actually collapsed. If they woke up, wouldn't they be so angry that they vomited blood? Look, not only did they not complete the running task, they almost lost half their lives. This was the first time they saw and heard of running until they fainted. Luckily we didn't insist on running, we have to fight with our lives. Just a little bit more, fate makes fools of people, fate makes fools of people. One by one the freshmen shook their heads and sighed. Although there was a sense of pity in their words, it was obvious that they were gloating over their misfortune. Instructor Ho slowly walked to the position where the instructor stood. His face was cold and his voice was cold and ruthless. Return to the team. Those freshmen lying on the ground had not even caught their breath. Their legs were so heavy that they couldn't even stand straight. When they heard the instructors shout, one by one, they wailed and flopped on the ground, refusing to get up. I'll give you a count of 10. Those freshmen who have not returned to the team, don't come back in the future. Instructor Ho directly raised a finger and said coldly. 1. The freshmen's face changed, they didn't dare to complain anymore, struggled to get up and staggered back to the team. After counting to 10, everyone obediently stood back in the team. Today's training ends here, I have seen your general strength. In the next month, I will customize the training method according to each of your strength. Instructor Ho put his hands behind his back and said majestically, today is just the beginning, there are more rigorous training waiting for you in the future. For a moment, the sound of the freshmen inhaling cold air came one after another. Today was already half their lives. Damn, there were more rigorous training? Wasn't that the rhythm of them dying on the training ground? Tomorrow at the same time, gather at the freshman training ground. Instructor Ho said faintly, his cold gaze swept past Yiqing Luo and paused for a moment. The students who passed today's training can report 2 hours later. Everyone looked at Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu with envious gazes. They were extremely resentful. Why didn't they insist on running the 5 laps? After Instructor Ho finished, he squinted at Instructor Chu. Instructor Chu understood and took a step forward, pointing to several directions in the crowd. You, he was referring to Yiqing Luo and Lu Xiaoyu. Both of you passed the training. Lu Xiaoyu excitedly hugged Yiqing Luo tightly as she cried out, finally we can enjoy our breakfast to our heart's content. Also, the 2 freshmen who were just a few steps away from completing 5 laps have passed the training. Once these words were spoken, some of the new students were immediately unconvinced. Why are they considered to have passed? A few steps away means a few steps away. If you haven't finished 5 laps, you haven't finished. Right. No matter if it was a step or a few steps, it was still a difference. It doesn't count as passing the training. The 2 instructors slightly frowned and scolded in a low voice with a sullen face. Am I the instructor or are you the instructor? If you have the strength, why are you still standing here feeling indignant? Why don't you have the strength to continue running? Even if they missed by half a lap, they still passed. If you have the ability to impress us, you can also pass the training. Seeing that the instructor was enraged, the freshman didn't dare to speak anymore. However, his face was filled with indignation. Although he said it, his heart refused to accept it. The instructors' faces were cold. Just as they were about to dismiss the group and let the freshmen go back, they heard a clear voice ring out. Chapter 180. Humans have unlimited potential. As long as you are willing to work hard and persevere, you will be able to stimulate it. Hard work may not necessarily lead to success, but if you don't work hard, you will never succeed. Everyone's sight followed the voice and looked over. Yiqing Luo was expressionless, her pink lips slightly pursed. Obviously her eyes were cold and emotionless, but her whole body exuded a terrifying aura. That pair of charming eyes, the corners of her eyes hooked into a narrow arc, enchanting yet covered by a layer of snow and frost. The reason why those two students can pass the training is because of their persistence and their hard work, which moved the instructor. Yiqing Luo's cold eyes swept through the crowd one by one, her lips hooked into a mocking smile. And all of you, other than being jealous of others and envious of others, have you ever persevered and worked hard to pass the training? His words caused the new students who were still clamoring to lower their heads in silence. Instructor Chu looked at Yiqing Luo. This girl had aroused his interest. When she said these words, her attitude was neither servile nor overbearing, not deliberately showing off, and everything was said in an orderly manner. No wonder old man Guiyu wanted to take her as his disciple the first time he saw this girl. He cleared his throat and gestured for everyone to focus on him again. Just as he was about to speak, a sharp and unwilling voice came from the crowd. Yiqing Luo, on what basis do you say that we did not work hard? We are so tired from running that we can't even lift our legs, and some students were carried to the medical hall. Don't tell me these people did not work hard? Shangguan Lioli couldn't stand Yiqing Luo showing off. In her eyes, Yiqing Luo's action today was deliberately going against her, deliberately trying to destroy her prestige. Yiqing Luo's lips twitched with a faint smile. How can you be sure that those people really fainted? You. Shangguan Lioli's face was livid, pointing at Yiqing Luo, her fingers were trembling. Enough. Do you think you are not tired enough? If you're not tired enough, run another 5 laps around the square. Instructor Ho furrowed his brows and scolded angrily. The freshman cried out in pain, tired to death. Since you know you're tired, why haven't you dismissed yet? The group of freshmen was startled for a moment before they cried out in joy and swarmed away. They were eager to return to their dormitories and have a good rest. Yiqing Luo supported Lu Xiaoyu. Go rest first, I'll treat you to roast chicken tonight. The moment Lu Xiaoyu heard about roast duck, her beautiful eyes sparkled as she wrapped her arms around Yiqing Luo's slender waist. No rest, treat me to roast chicken now. As long as there's food, I'll be full of energy. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly and pulled her to the canteen. Lu Xiaoyu really deserved to be a real foodie. When the roast chicken was placed in front of her, her whole body was full of vitality, and her eyes were only filled with food. After eating 2 roast chickens and a large plate of meat, Lu Xiaoyu burped in satisfaction. One meal cost Yiqing Luo 50 silver coins. After the meal, Lu Xiaoyu had eaten too much, so Yiqing Luo accompanied her to walk 1 round around the courtyard and received 2 sets of uniform before returning to the dormitory. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he heard a woman's laughter coming from inside, as if she was saying something. Yiqing Luo pushed the door and entered. In the hall, around a mahogany square table, sat 5 gorgeously dressed women. As soon as they saw Yiqing Luo, the 5 of them looked over in unison. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.